Okay, it started. Let's get to it. Hi, everyone. Let's go.
Question 1.
Hi, everyone in the chat. Question 1.
Mr. Speaker, can I first wish you a happy birthday for yesterday?
Happy birthday to you.
And say that we're
You were
all
born
delighted
in
that
the
Sir Billy
zoo.
Boston, a great British sporting icon, has received his richly deserved knighthood. Long overdue, if I may say, for him, but also for rugby league. Mr. Speaker, it's Carers Week, and I know the whole House will join me in celebrating the selfless dedication of our unpaid and young carers. This weekend also marks the 8th anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire. We will honour the 72 men, women and children who lost their lives by delivering meaningful and lasting change, a country with safe and secure homes for everyone, and where justice is done for the Grenfell community. Mr. Speaker, acting alongside our allies, we've sanctioned individuals responsible for inciting appalling settler violence and expansion. We've done that to uphold human rights and defend the prospect of a two-state solution. We will continue to support all efforts to secure a ceasefire, the release of all hostages, despicably held
everyone
by
in the
Hamas,
chat.
and the humanitarian aid that needs to
Diz,
surge in.
Liam,
Mr. Speaker,
Chris,
this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition
Gina,
to my meetings in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Get on with it.
Diolch, Mr Llefarydd. My constituent, Mr Michael O'Leary, was brutally murdered 5 years ago and his body was desecrated. Working alongside the honourable members for York Outer and Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr, I've made a number of requests to discuss his and other victims' cases with ministers and to explore introducing legislation making the desecration of a body a criminal offence. Would the Prime Minister meet with Mr O'Leary's family, along with other victims' families, including April Jones of Machynlleth and Sarah Everett and Helen McCourt, to hear why they are calling for a new criminal offence of desecrating a body to be introduced?
Well, can I thank her for raising this horrific case and the other similar cases, and my thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House, are with Michael's family and all those affected by such vile crimes. I think we all need to listen to what they have to say. I know she's been working with the honourable friend for York Outer on this issue.
We're going to be here for a while, so
and I pay tribute to her and all of those who are working so hard
friends.
on this issue. And I'm sure the Justice Minister will be in touch at the first opportunity to take this forward. And I thank her again for raising a really important issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, in Gloucestershire, after 14 years, waiting lists for both physical and mental health are finally falling. So last week I hosted a round table with young people and heard how music and arts programmes like the fantastic Gloucestershire Music Works are transforming mental health outcomes. I also chaired a panel on comedy on prescription in South by Southwest with Lou Jackson and Jonathan Pye, utilising laughter to improve well-being and reduce waiting lists.
Get on with it.
Can I ask the Prime Minister
I'm sorry,
to
I'm
back
just-
our campaign?
In his local trust,
I'm just
and we're
skipped.
going further,
I've just
including
skipped,
through
'cause-
state-of-the-art radiotherapy machines rolled out across the country, Mr. Speaker. There's one going into his constituency.
Can we get on
More
with it?
scanners going to 27 other hospital trusts, including 2 hospitals in the constituency of the Leader of the Opposition. All made possible by the decisions that we've made, and I know she'll want to stand up and welcome that.
Leave the opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Prime Minister knows something I don't know. There's only one hospital in my constituency. But Mr. Speaker, since... Mr. Speaker, since Labour took office, Mr. Speaker, inflation has nearly doubled, growth has halved, and unemployment has surged. Is this what the Prime Minister meant when he tweeted that the economy is improving?
Mr. Speaker, since the general election, 500,000 more people are in work. And I know she doesn't mention that. She's fixated on talking Britain down. We're investing in the future. Mr. Speaker,
She's so
even
rubbish
in the
at
last
this.
2 weeks,
She's
the
giving him
Strategic
opportunity
Defence
to go
Review,
on about all the good things that
30,000
they've
new
done.
jobs building submarines. Yesterday, the Sizewell announcement, 10,000 new jobs. Tens of thousands of construction jobs building the social and affordable housing that was announced this morning. That's the difference that Labour makes in government.
Mr. Speaker, he must be talking about a different economy. All of us in this House heard about unemployment increasing. Unemployment has increased every month since Labour took office. Last year, he said he was taking the winter fuel payment away to balance the books. But the books are not balanced. In fact, they are worse. This year, the deficit is forecast to be £10 billion higher since the budget. Not since last year's election, since the budget. In what way are the books now balanced?
Mr. Speaker, she's obviously missed the interest rate cuts, the growth figures for earlier this year, the huge, the strategic defence review, local transport, £15 billion going in, free school meals, Sizewell, social housing. Mr. Speaker, but she stands there to lecture us, and I say Liz Truss is obviously back in vogue.
Oh my God, she's so rubbish at this. It's basically she just stood up and said, would the Prime Minister like to list all their achievements in the last year? That'll make them look bad.
Advising reform officially now, haunting the Tories, and I remind her that the Shadow Home Secretary, I think he was then Chief Secretary to the Treasury, he gave the Liz Truss budget, Mr. Speaker, 9.5 out of 10. The Leader of the Opposition said what was wrong with Liz Truss's budget was not necessarily the package, that was all right, it was the way it was sold. They've learned absolutely nothing.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, he loves talking about Liz Truss because he loves talking about Liz Truss.
Yeah?
Why?
She's your leader?
Why?
She was
Because
useless?
he wants to hide from his own economic record. He's a coward.
What?
He's a coward. Every time
You're the
he
one
stands
hiding
up
from
and
your
talks about
economic
Liz Truss,
record
it's
by
because he's
pretending Liz
scared
Truss
about
never
talking
happened.
about his record and what is happening to the economy.
How about your record in office for 14 years of
Let's bring it back
nothing?
to the U-turn, which he's running away from. A U-turn on a policy that his MPs went out defending time and time again. Let's go through what's happening here. 1 minute, they said it was right to take the winter fuel payment away, that there might be a run on the pound. The next minute, they said it was right to give it back. This is laughable. He
You're
stands
laughable.
there all puffed up and self-righteous. Why can't the Prime Minister just admit that he made a mistake?
Mr. Speaker, they left a £22 billion black hole.
Hey!
And that's why we took the right
Boom.
decisions. We've stabilised the economy. That's why we've seen 4 interest rate cuts. The triple lock is committed to on this side. They say it's unsustainable on that side. That's £470 for most pensioners and good Q1 growth. 3 weeks ago, I said that I wanted more pensioners to be eligible for winter fuel. I'm really pleased we set out the threshold and the certainty that is needed. And she says I don't want to talk about my record. What about 3 trade deals, record investment, free school meals, breakfast clubs, social and affordable housing, defence review, Sizewell? We could go on all morning, Mr. Speaker, but we've got the Chancellor who's going to say even more in a minute. Mr. Speaker, I think she at the weekend said that she would be getting better in the role. She could start with apologising for the Liz Truss budget. That would be better.
Mr.
She's
Speaker,
so
Mr.
bad
Speaker,
at it.
I get better every week. He gets worse. Yes,
Oh, really?
He gets worse. Last week, Mr. Speaker.
This is such a nonsense.
If you think that is a good look, it is a very bad look. And think twice before you try to shout somebody down in that way.
Mr. Speaker, last week he had to get his lines from the Russian embassy. I think we all know that he is getting worse, and what he does not want to talk about is how he is going to make the economy better. That is what the people out there
Why are you
want to
giving
hear,
him the
and he's got
opportunity
no
to
answers.
say
His trade
how he's
deals
going to make
have
the
unraveled.
economy
The Strategic
better?
Defence Review, everyone out there is asking where is the money coming from, and the fact is he doesn't know how to balance the books. The Chancellor says the winter fuel payment
Chancellor.
U-turn won't be funded through higher borrowing. So will the Prime Minister admit that it will be funded by putting everybody's taxes up?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think she let slip on the Matt Ford programme the other day that she rehearses her fury for PMQs. So a very good rehearsal this morning, I think. Mr. Speaker, she asked what we're doing. At the budget, we put record investment in our NHS and our public service. Record investment. And she comes every week to carp on about national insurance, but she doesn't stand there with the courage of her convictions and say she'll actually reverse it. And the reason she won't, because she won't stand up and say she's against the investment in the NHS, she won't stand up and say she's against the investment in our public services, and we'll all listen very carefully in just 20 minutes when the Chancellor lays out more record investment as to whether they welcome it or whether they say they wouldn't support it.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, every week I come here to tell him the truth. The truth that the economy is in a spiral because Labour, that's all of them, Labour put up taxes that cut growth. And we all heard the Prime Minister, he didn't rule out tax rises, so they are going to have to put up taxes even more. This is a spiral. And if that wasn't bad enough, Mr. Speaker, if that wasn't bad enough, this morning we heard that because of his terrible Chagos deal, Mauritius is scrapping income tax. Why on earth should the British taxpayer pay for £30 billion for tax cuts in Mauritius?
That's not how it works,
Diego
you
Garcia
idiot.
is a vital intelligence and strategic capability. And it's absolutely clear that legal uncertainty would compromise it in very short order. That is why they started the negotiations in relation to it. And no responsible Prime Minister would let that happen. We've secured the base for the long time. That has been welcomed by our allies, by the US, by NATO, by Australia, New Zealand, India. It's been opposed by our adversaries, Russia, China and Iran. And in the second column, we add reform, following Putin, and the Tories following reform.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows this has nothing to do with national security, but his bad negotiating. I've had the security briefing. It was a bad deal before, and it's still a bad deal. And then in half an hour, the Chancellor is going to stand up and tell us that everything is fine. But the truth is, she has made bad choices. Bad choices that mean higher inflation, bad choices that have led to lower growth, bad choices that have meant that jobs have been lost every single month since Labour came into office. That's hundreds of thousands of families who've lost their income in Stoke, in Grangemouth, in Luton. Those are their constituencies, businesses across the country. The Chancellor has lost all her headroom. She's fallen out with the Cabinet. She's making unfunded spending commitments, which she promised not to do.
What's the question here?
That we've got the wrong Chancellor and the wrong priorities?
Is that the question? Have you got the wrong Chancellor and the wrong priorities? He's just going to stand up and say no?
The wrong choice they made was making her leader of the opposition.
Hey, you see?
Richard Bergen.
I mean, he's crap at this.
Mr. Speaker.
He is absolutely rubbish. Keir Starmer cannot debate. He's not particularly charismatic. He looks like Roger Irrelevant. He sounds like John Major's spitting image puppet from the 90s. And yet, he is consistently wiping the floor with Kemi Badenoch. Like, You've got to be like extra specially bad at the job to make Keir Starmer look good at what he's doing, and he does it each week now. And she is catastrophic. And asking these stupid questions where it's like, I think you're shit. Here's all the reasons I think you're shit. Why aren't you less shit? That's not a question to ask. We'll come to Ed Davey in a moment, and we'll find out, how to ask a question in the House of Commons that gets a sensible question, that gets a sensible answer. First, we've got to go to Richard Bergen now. I don't know if he's still a Labour MP. I think he's in.
And belated birthday greetings to you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, no, he is still
It's
Labour.
wrong for any Labour government. No Labour government should ever try to balance the books on the backs of disabled people. Yet, in just a few weeks' time, that is what the Prime Minister will ask this House to do. Many of us will not be able to go along with that because it will mean that people who need assistance to cut up their food, to wash themselves, to dress themselves and to go to the toilet will lose the pip they currently get. That's vital support. This week, the Prime Minister changed direction on winter fuel payments. Will he do the same in relation to this and now drop these disability benefit cuts?
Yeah, fucking do it.
Mr. Speaker, it's very important we make the changes to our welfare system. It's not working. It needs reform. I think everybody agrees with that. It doesn't work for anyone.
You're not going to get the votes,
so on a principled basis that those who can work should work, those that want to work should be supported to do so, and that we must protect those with the most severe disabilities who will never be able to work, and we're doing that by ending reassessments and paying a new premium.
The Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join others in wishing you belated happy returns for yesterday? And can I welcome the government's sanctions of ministers in the Netanyahu government, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich? The violence they've incited, the settler violence they've incited against innocent Palestinians on the West Bank is intolerable, and the government will right to act. And as it's Carers Week, Mr. Speaker, can I pay tribute to the millions of unpaid family carers across the country and recognise the challenges that they face?
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the last Conservative government left our health service on its knees. We've heard reports that the NHS will get extra funding in the spending review. If it does, we will support that. But does the Prime Minister agree that no amount of money for the NHS will solve its crisis unless we also invest to fix care. So without preempting the Chancellor's statement, will the Prime Minister reassure me that both social care and family carers will get the priority they deserve in the spending review?
Yeah, good question.
Can I agree with him that the health crisis created by the previous government cannot be solved? They groan. That is exactly how the country feels about the last 14 years and the mess they made of everything.
14
yes,
years.
we do need to fix social care alongside the money that we're putting into the NHS. We're putting record amounts into the NHS. That's the right thing to do, and we're seeing the results. We promised 2 million extra appointments in the first year, of a Labour government. We've delivered 3 million, so there will be that.
We've got to deliver.
I would gently say to him, whilst he welcomes all the extra funding, he can't also at the same time simply say he's against any way of raising the money for the funding. There's an incompatibility there.
I don't think the Lib Dems have said that.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows he's got a fairer and better way of funding NHS investment, and I regret the fact that he didn't answer my question on care.
No,
but, Mr. Speaker, moving on, the Prime Minister is right to increase defence spending, and later we'll hear the difficult choices the Chancellor has had to make, partly to fund that defence expenditure. But there are £25 billion of frozen Russian assets in the UK right now.
Yes.
Billions that could be used to stop Putin's war machine and to boost Britain's defence industry even faster. So at the G7 this weekend, will the Prime Minister try to seek an agreement to seize those frozen Russian state assets and use them to support Ukraine?
Please do. Thank you very much, Paula, for the super chat.
As he knows,
Thank you. You're right. It's got
that
nothing
is
to
an
do
issue
with
that's being considered, but it is complicated, and there are a lot of countervailing factors that need to be carefully balanced in a decision that can be made. We are talking to allies about it, but I don't want to pretend to the House that there's an easy answer on this, because there isn't.
Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More jobs, cheaper bills. That was our promise on net zero. If we can't meet those goals, then we must consider our approach. In Pembrokeshire, we have a proud industrial history rooted in oil and gas, and an incredibly exciting opportunity in floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea. So can the Prime Minister assure me that he is committed to a just transition that protects and creates jobs?
If you're wondering why he sounds so posh and assured of himself, Radley College, ladies and gentlemen, yes, he went to private school. Because, of course, he fucking did.
Thank him for raising this. I believe this government must seize the opportunities of net zero for working people, creating good, skilled jobs, taking them off the roller coaster of volatile fossil fuel markets. Under past governments, Mr. Speaker, hard-working communities had their pride and their jobs ripped away, and we will never do that in relation to a transition. We've already seen £40 billion of investment in energy and renewables, and the CBI shows that 38,000 jobs in Wales are linked to clean energy. I want to see more of that. Both of them are against it.
Saoirse Eastwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I just want to pay tribute to the Police Service of Northern Ireland briefly for tackling public order in Northern Ireland over the last 2 nights with over 30 police officers injured. I'm sure the whole House would want to join with me in that, and also condemning the racist violence. Mr. Speaker, whether it's the cardiac scandal at the RVH in Belfast, the cervical smear scandal in the Southern Trust, the COVID-bereaved families, or the crash of Chinook Zulu Delta 576, all of which has impacted my constituents in Lagan Valley. The common thread here is that families simply wanted the truth, but they were let down by institutions at every cut and turn. Will this government urgently introduce a duty of candor bill and ensure that it reflects what the Hillsborough Law Now campaigners and families have fought so very hard for?
Yeah, brilliant, Saoirse.
Can I start with the important point she makes about Ballymena? And I utterly condemn the violence that we've seen overnight in Ballymena and in other parts of Northern Ireland, including against PSNI officers. It is absolutely vital that the PSNI are given the time they need to investigate the incidents concerned, rather than face mindless attacks as they seek to bring peace and order to keep people safe. And the Northern Ireland Secretary is in touch with the PSNI and the Executive, and I'm being kept updated in relation to that. In relation to the tragic cases that she raises, firstly, I thank her for raising them, and it is important that we have a legal duty of candor. We will be introducing that because, as she says, there must be the truth here based on all people being dealt with on the basis of dignity, fairness and accountability. Thank you.
Yasmin Qureshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the words of the former Israeli Prime Minister, what we are witnessing in Gaza is indiscriminate, limitless, cruel and criminal killing of civilians. More than 50,000 people have been killed, children have been shot while queuing for bread. A growing number of genocide scholars, including leading Israeli academics, believe that genocide is taking place.
Yes, they do.
Under international law, we have a duty to prevent genocide. I served on the UN mission in Kosovo. We acted to stop mass killing there. What is the difference now? Will the Prime Minister please intervene immediately to alleviate human suffering and take steps to recognise the state of Palestine?
Mr. Speaker, should have seen the statement we made yesterday and the actions that we're taking with allies.
Yes, but you still haven't
the
recognised the state.
humanitarian situation is dreadful.
Recognise the state.
And
you'll get cross-party support if you recognise the
outside
state.
aid distribution centres are frankly heartbreaking. More aid is needed at volume and speed into Gaza, and Israel's plan for aid delivery is inadequate and insufficient. What is needed is for the UN and other agencies to deliver that aid according to well-established mechanisms, and Israel must allow this. Mr. Speaker, we are working with allies to do all that we can to make this happen, as well, of course, to get the hostages out who have been held for a very long time and a desperately needed return to a ceasefire.
Alex Easton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, there are significant concerns regarding the potential job losses at Spirit Aerosystems stemming from the deal with Airbus. Would the Prime Minister agree with me and intervene to bring all the main players, including the unions, the Business Secretary and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, around the table to ensure these jobs are protected, especially considering the scale of the issues akin to the challenges faced by British Steel? And also, there is an issue for Northern Ireland businesses with the outworkings of the Northern Ireland Protocol and the Windsor Framework. Can the Prime Minister give me reassurances that he's working to resolve all those issues?
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising this important case of Spirit Aerosystems in Northern Ireland. I know how important it is for the workforce. I've visited them myself on more than one occasion. Airbus's decision to expand UK operations is good news for the sector and testament to world-class manufacturing expertise, and I want to see those high-skilled jobs protected. The Northern Ireland Secretary has met Airbus, the trade unions and assembly representatives to discuss the best outcome. The Minister of Industry is continuing engagement with stakeholders, and we will do everything we can in relation to this situation. I'm grateful to him for raising it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister join me in condemning decisions taken by the Transport Minister of the previous government, who turned their back on promises to deliver a new train station at Bean Park, which derailed growth in my constituency of Dagenham and Rainham? And will he also agree that the Grampian condition on the Bean Park development must be honoured and that infrastructure must accompany all developments of scale as we get on with the job of delivering millions of new homes?
Well, I know she's been fighting hard for this project for years, and she's right, the previous government failed to deliver. You could say that about anything they touch, Mr. Speaker. But the Rail Minister is working with the Mayor and Housing Minister to get an appropriate solution to unlock housing in the area. Mr. Speaker, we'll also bring C2C back into public ownership, improving reliability and performance and ensuring every penny is focused on better service. I imagine when I said disaster is referring to the last government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spoken with parents with children with special education needs and disabilities, but aren't getting the support they need in school. However, if as a result their child is out of school, they're left facing prosecution, fines or even prison time. Punishing parents for the failings of a broken system is outrageous.
I agree.
So will the Prime
Absolutely
Minister end this by backing Lord's Amendment 349A to the Children's Wellbeing and School Bill? And will he meet with me to discuss this further?
Do it. Do it.
And I thank you for raising this. The epidemic of absence in our schools is something that really does worry me and concern me. Thanks to the efforts of schools and parents across the country, we've seen over 3 million more days in school this year compared to last, which is really important. But we do know that pupils with special educational needs face more complex barriers in relation to school attendance.
Yes.
Look, we will, of course, look at all amendments in the usual way, but in this instance, I do think we struck the right balance.
Chris Webb.
Yeah. Thank you. Before we go to Spider-Man here, John C, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Yasmin Qureshi, MP, came to the UK aged 9 with her parents. Yes, another brilliant example of someone born outside of an English postcode contributing brilliantly to UK public life. I couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. Anyway, thanks for the super chat. On with the show.
Mr. Speaker, may I start by congratulating Sir Billy Boston. Billy ended his career playing at Blackpool, and I know this has been a long campaign by the Culture Secretary.
Good surname to be talking
Speaker,
about rugby.
The Honourable Member for Makerfield, and many in this House, so congratulations to Sir Billy. 12,000 people, it's been exposed by shelter, are waiting for council housing in Blackpool. This is a damning indictment on the legacy of the previous 14 years of the government. Hundreds of families in my constituency are waiting for housing, stuck in bed and breakfast, or like my constituent Casey, who's sofa surfing with her 2 children in tow. So will the Prime Minister, alongside the Deputy Prime Minister, commit to a new generation of social housing and council housing in my constituency and help me build a better Blackpool?
Well, can I join him on his comments about Billy Boston? I think the whole House will, Mr. Speaker. We are turning the tide on the housing crisis with the biggest investment in social and affordable housing in a generation, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor investing £39 billion over the next 10 years, almost double what we saw
And I
under
need
the
that to
last
say
government.
record investment.
And no
don't I?
wonder the National Housing Federation welcomed this as transformative, saying it offers real hope to the thousands who need safe, secure and affordable homes.
Sarah Bull.
It is National Diabetes Week, and as someone living with type 1, as we both are, Mr. Speaker, we are more than aware of the serious complications of diabetic ketoacidosis, KDA, which, if not caught early enough, could prove fatal. Now, 1/4 of children are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when in KDA, and that could be avoided with early diagnosis. So will the Prime Minister commit to rolling out a national, universal screening programme, as seen in Italy, for type 1?
Can I
She
thank
went
her for
to Stanford
championing this
High
really
School,
important
private
issue.
school, of
My
course.
late mother had diabetes, and so I know firsthand just what a struggle it can be and how important it is. Type 1 diabetes is not preventable, as she knows, but the sooner we can reach people, the sooner we can care for them. And we have a screening programme in the UK available to families across the country, and over 20,000 children have already taken part. It is really important that we continue to deliver that, but can I thank her for continuing to champion this and to raise her voice on this very important issue.
Durham Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is crystal clear how social media and smartphones are harming our young people with
shave your head.
cyberbullying, addiction
What are you
and
doing?
exploitation
What are you doing with
absolutely
it?
rife. Governments
Crispy
elsewhere
bits.
are taking bold
Just
action.
shave it,
I understand
mate.
ministers are considering a 2-hour limit, but that's per
Can't even look
app
at that.
rather than per day. I know the Prime Minister takes this seriously, so can he update the House on what he wants to see happen and what action this government will take to protect our children?
It is important that we take action to protect our children, and from July, Mr. Speaker, tough new rules will mean platforms must protect children in the UK from seeing harmful and violent content. We do need to look at other measures needed to create safer online experiences for young people, and we won't hesitate to take further steps.
Speaker, concerning your statistics show that delays for cancer treatment in North Norfolk are greater than the national average. Much of this relates to the struggles that we face specifically as an older rural constituency. I was elected on a promise to get our NHS back and fighting fit after the criminal damage inflicted on it by the Conservatives. Would the Prime Minister recognise that rural health services face acute and specific challenges? And can he give his word to the people of North Norfolk that the reforms and spending we need will come forward to address this?
Can I thank him for...
So it won't update for a little while, but I've just added Sarah Bull to the private school mafia list. She's the 1,275th name on the list.
Raising this really important issue for his constituents. I think it does impact rural areas in particular. We've set out record funding for the NHS. We have our cancer plan, and I can give him that reassurance.
This is the final question, Johnny Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and members across this House would have witnessed this spectacular victory for Davy Russell in Scotland. Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election. My constituents are sick of SNP failure and they voted for change for their NHS, their schools and for Scotland. So can I ask the Prime Minister, has he seen the calls from within the SNP for John Swinney to resign? And does he agree with me that a leader who has only ever lost elections to the Labour Party should stay put?
Well, can I pay tribute to her for the role that she and others played in seeing Davy Russell elected? He will be a dedicated champion for her and her constituents. And after nearly 2 decades in power, the SNP got their verdict last Thursday. Scotland wants change, and they know the SNP are completely out of ideas. That's why they want a Labour government to deliver real change.
He got a final deliver in there as well. Right.
We now come. I call the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make a statement. Rachel Reeves.
A statement. Let's do a statement. Right, this is a spending review.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My driving purpose since I became Chancellor is to make working people in all parts of our country
driving the economy
off.
off a cliff.
To rebuild our schools and our hospitals. To invest in our economy so that everyone has the opportunity to succeed after 14 years of mismanagement and decline by the party opposite.
14 years of Tory failure.
14 billion pound black hole in the public finances.
14 years and the 22 billion black hole.
Their legacy.
The first minute.
And the first job I faced as Chancellor was to set it right. So at the budget last October, and again in the spring, I made the choices necessary to fix the foundations of our economy. And we wasted no time in removing the barriers to growth. The biggest overhaul of our planning system in a generation, launching Britain's first national wealth fund and reforming our pension system to unlock billions of pounds of investment into our economy. We are starting to see the results. The stability that we have provided has helped support 4 cuts in interest rates, saving hundreds of pounds a year for families with a mortgage. Real wages have grown by more in the first 10 months of this Labour government than they did in the first 10 years of Conservative government.
She's not wrong.
And the latest figures show that we are the fastest economy growing in the G7.
Grow the economy.
Around the world lining up to do business with Britain again, with new trade deals with India, the United States and with the European Union too. We are renewing Britain. But I know that too many people in too many parts of our country are yet to feel it. This government's task, my task as Chancellor, and the purpose of this spending review is to change that, to ensure that renewal is felt in people's everyday lives, in their jobs and on their high streets. The priorities of this spending review are the priorities of working people, to invest in Britain's security, in Britain's health, and to grow Britain's economy so that working people are better off. Mr. Speaker, today I am allocating the envelope I set out in the spring. I am enormously grateful to my excellent team of officials at the Treasury and to my right honourable friend, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, for his tireless work throughout this process. Crunching the numbers, looking at the assets and the liabilities. And on that note, my Cabinet colleagues for their contribution to this process. They are all assets to this Labour government.
All the fucking liability, mate.
In this spending review, total departmental budgets will grow by 2.3% a year in real terms. Compare that to the Conservative choice of austerity. In contrast to our increase of 2.3%, They cut spending by 2.9% per year in 2010. So let's be clear. Austerity was a destructive choice for the fabric of our society.
Yes, that's true.
And
Can't argue
it
with
was a
that.
destructive choice for our economy
So don't carry it on, Rachel.
Choking off investment and demand, creating a lost decade for growth, wages and living
Lost
standards.
decade. And music.
That is their legacy.
Yeah.
My choices are different. My choices are Labour choices. The choices in this spending review that are only possible because of my commitment to economic stability and to the decisions that this government has made. The Conservatives' fiscal rules guaranteed neither stability nor investment, and that is why I changed them. My fiscal rules are non-negotiable, and they are the foundation of stability and of investment. My first rule is for stability, that day-to-day government spending should be paid for through tax receipts. That is the sound economic choice, and it is also the fair choice.
Okay, tax
Because
going
it
up.
is not right to expect our children and future generations to pay for the services that we rely on today. This first rule allows me, as I set out in the budget last year, to allocate £190 billion more to the day-to-day running of our public services over the course of this spending review, compared to the plans of the previous government. My second fiscal rule enables me to invest in Britain's economic renewal, while getting public debt down on a downward path. The rule has allowed me to increase public investment by over £100 billion in the autumn and a further £13 billion in the spring. Investment to rebuild our transport networks, to rebuild our defence capability and to rebuild our energy security. In short, to grow our economy. Mr. Speaker, I've made my choices. Tough decisions, yes, for stability. Changing Britain's fiscal rules,
getting to use
yes,
all my little
for investment.
things today,
and
aren't I?
today, delivering that investment
Ah,
for
yes,
the
she
renewal
said it as
of
well.
Britain.
My
Now
God.
it is a time
I could
for
write
the
these
parties
scripts.
opposite to make their choices. The spending plans that I am setting out today
everyone playing the bingo game?
are only possible because of the decisions that I took in the autumn to raise taxes and the changes to our fiscal rules. Every one of those changes was opposed by the parties opposite. So today, they can make an honest choice, and they can oppose these spending plans, as they opposed every penny I raised to fund them. Or they can make the same choice as Liz Truss: spend more, borrow more, with no regard for the consequences. And in their clamour to cut taxes for the richest, the Conservatives crashed our economy. They sent mortgage rates spiralling and they put our pensions in peril. I will never take those risks.
I'll never forgive him.
And reform. Well, they're itching to do the same thing all over again. Now, the member for Clacton may be playing the friend of the workers now, but some of us are old enough to remember when he described the disastrous Liz Truss budget as, and I quote, the best Conservative budget since the 1980s. Mr. Speaker, after the damage is done, he still nods along. They have learnt nothing. And his party have been in Parliament for less than a year, and yet they have already racked up £80 billion of unfunded commitments. They are simply not serious. Mr. Speaker, every day it becomes clearer. It is Labour, and only Labour, that has a credible plan for the renewal of Britain. As I said in my spring statement, the world is changing
Details.
before
Come
our
on.
eyes.
Come on, this is Vatovic. I want
And since the
details. Give me some
spring,
numbers.
The challenges that we face have become even more acute.
Give us some numbers.
The signs of our age of insecurity are everywhere. So we are acting on the promise in our plan to change, building renewal on foundations of national security, border security and economic security. As the Prime Minister said earlier this month, a new era in the threats that we face demands a new era for defence and security. That's why we took the decision to prioritise our defence spending by reducing overseas development aid, so that defence spending will now rise to 2.6% of GDP by April 2027, including the contribution of our intelligence agencies. That uplift provides funding for my right honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, with £11 billion increased in defence spending and a £600 million uplift for our security and intelligence agencies. That investment will deliver not only security, but also renewal. Deliver! In Aldermaston and Lincoln, in Portsmouth and Filton, on the Clyde and in Rosyth. Investment in Scotland, jobs in Scotland, defence for the United Kingdom, opposed by the Scottish National Party, delivered by this Labour government. And as we invest in our armed forces, our military technology and our supply chains, that also brings huge opportunities. £4.5 billion of investment in munitions, made in factories from Glasgow to Glasgow, Stevenage to Radway Green, and over £6 billion to upgrade our nuclear submarine production, supporting thousands of jobs across Barrow, Derby and Sheffield. We will make Britain a defence industrial superpower, with the jobs, the skills and the pride that come with it. A more unstable world presents new challenges at our borders too, where conflict has opened the way for organised criminal gangs. The British people rightly expect us to have control of who comes into our country. The party opposite said that they would take back control. Well, Mr. Speaker, they lost control. With one failed policy after another. No control, no security.
Okay, stop talking about the other people.
In contrast,
you don't know what you're going to do.
Last year, I announced £150 million to establish the new Border Security Command. And today, to support the integrity of our borders, I can announce that that funding will increase with up to £280 million more per year by the end of the spending review for our new Border Security Command.
Don't care.
Alongside that, we are tackling the asylum backlog. The party opposite left behind a broken system. Billions of pounds of taxpayers' money spent on housing asylum seekers in hotels, leaving people in limbo and shunting the cost of failure onto local communities. We won't let that stand. So I can confirm today that, led by the work of my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, we will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament. Funding that I have provided today, including from the Transformation Fund, will cut the asylum backlog, hear more appeal cases and return people who have no right to be here, saving the taxpayer £1 billion a year. That is my choice, Mr. Speaker. That is the Labour choice. That is the choice of the British people. And, Mr. Speaker, if we want national security in a dangerous world, that does not stop at the strength of our armed forces or at our border. I have long spoken about what I call securonomics, the basic insight that in an age of insecurity, government must step up to provide security for working people and resilience for our national economy. Put simply, where things are made and who makes them matters. Take energy. The Tories neglected our nuclear and renewable sectors and closed our gas storage facilities, leaving us exposed to hikes in energy prices when Russia invaded Ukraine. And it was working people who paid the price for their mistakes.
Working people.
On this side of the House, we understand that energy security is national security. And so, because it is the right choice for bills, the right choice for jobs and the right choice for growth, this government is investing in the biggest rollout of nuclear power for half a century. A £30 billion commitment to our nuclear-powered future. Yesterday, my right honourable friend, the Energy Secretary, and I announced £14 billion for Sizewell C, producing the energy to power 6 million homes, supporting more than 10,000 jobs, including 1,500 apprentices, to build the nuclear workforce of tomorrow. And, Mr. Speaker, that's not all. We are investing over £2.5 billion in a new small modular reactor programme. Our preferred partner is Rolls-Royce, a great British company based in Derby. This investment is just one step towards our ambition for a full fleet of small modular reactors, as well as providing a route for private sector-led advanced modular reactor projects to be deployed across the UK. Alongside these, we are making nuclear-approved land available in Sellafield to attract private investment and create thousands more jobs. And I'd like to thank my honourable friend from Whitehaven and Workington for his work in this area. And to strengthen Britain's position at the forefront of a global race for new nuclear technologies, a cause championed by the Mayor of the East Midlands, Claire Ward, and my honourable friend, the member for Bassett Law, and to support pioneering work taking place in West Burton in Nottinghamshire, we are investing £2.5 billion in nuclear fusion.
No.
And to back British industries, pioneering work in carbon capture and storage will take place. Last year, we announced funding for 2 sites, on Merseyside and in Teesside, where we are building the world's first commercial-scale CCUS plant. Today, I can announce support for the Acorn project in Aberdeenshire.
Carbon capture is bullshit.
From oil and gas to low-carbon technology. A challenge and an opportunity well understood by the leader of Scottish Labour, Anna Sarwar, and by my right honourable friend, the Scottish Secretary. And we are also backing the Viking project in Humberside, a cause long supported by my honourable friend, the member for Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes. And because I am determined to make sure that the energy technologies of the future are built here and owned here, and that those jobs come to Britain, with spending review decisions means that we can invest in the wholly publicly owned Great British Energy. Great British Energy, headquartered in Scotland. These are investments to make sure the towns and cities which powered the last industrial revolution will play their part in our next industrial revolution. To reduce our reliance on overseas oil and gas and protect working families from price shocks. A new generation of energy industries for a renewed Britain. That is my choice. That is Labour's choice. That is the choice of the British people. Economic security relies on our ability to buy, make and sell more here in Britain. In April, this government faced a choice: to let British Steel in Scunthorpe go under, or to intervene.
We know what you've done
we
here.
We heard representations from workers.
I missed that joke.
Mr. Speaker, that choice was for here in Britain. In April, this government faced a choice: to let British Steel in Scunthorpe go under, or to intervene. We heard representations from workers.
Didn't get that. Got what they're laughing about.
Mr. Speaker, that choice was the choice not of the metal trader, but this Labour government.
Oh, it was Farage saying something.
We
did
heard
that.
representations from workers, trade unions, and from my honourable friend,
Metals
the member
trader.
for Scunthorpe. My right honourable friend, the Business Secretary, and I were not prepared to tolerate a situation in which Britain's steel capacity was fatally undermined. We were not prepared to see another working-class community lose the pride, lose the prosperity, lose the dignity that industry provides. So we did intervene to save British steel and the jobs that come with it, and I am proud of that decision. And this government will invest in Scunthorpe's long-term future and the future of steelworks across our great country, and in a vote of confidence in our homegrown steel. Heathrow Airport, where we are backing London by backing a third runway, has signed the UK Steel Charter, a multi-billion-pound airport expansion backed by Labour, built with British steel. And as we build our train and tram lines, our military hardware and our new power stations. That will mean orders for steel made in Britain. In Sheffield,
yes,
Boardmasters,
I agree.
where we are investing in nuclear-grade steel. And in Port Talbot, where this spending review confirms the £500 million grant to Tata Steel. A future for British-made steel, and a proud future for Britain's steel communities. Things built to last, built here in Britain. That is my choice. That is Labour's choice. That is the choice of the British people.
I've said that before. It's a bit of a
This
mantra,
Labour
that, isn't it?
government is backing British business. There will be more to come in the weeks ahead with our 10-year infrastructure strategy and our modern industrial strategy too. A plan drawn up in partnership with businesses and trade unions. And when I speak to business people and entrepreneurs about what they need to succeed, they say they need the chance to innovate. They need access to finance. They need a deep pool of talent. We have heard that message, and so today we are taking action. First, innovation, a great British strength. Our universities are world-leading, and we are proud of them. We want our high-tech industries in Britain today to continue to lead the world in the years to come, in car production, in aerospace, and in life sciences. So we are backing our innovators, backing our researchers, and backing our entrepreneurs, with R&D funding rising to a record high of £22 billion per year by the end of the spending review.
Hang on. £22 billion.
Homegrown AI
But it's
has
not a
the
black
potential
hole.
to solve diverse and daunting challenges, as well as the opportunity for good jobs and investment here in Britain. I am announcing £2 billion to back this government's AI action plan, overseen by my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Science and Technology. And second, to champion those small businesses seeking access to finance as they look to grow. I am increasing the financial firepower of the British Business Bank, a 2/3 increase in its investments, increasing its overall financial capacity to £25.6 billion, to help pioneering businesses start up and to scale up, backing Britain's entrepreneurs, backing Britain's wealth creators. And third, as we invest, if we are to thrive in the industries of the future, we must give our young people the skills that they need to contribute to our national success. As scientists, engineers and designers, as builders, welders and electricians. I know the ambition, the drive and the potential of our young people. And it cannot be right that too often those ambitions and that potential are stifled. When young people who want training find courses are oversubscribed and are turned away at the door, forcing growing businesses eager to recruit to look elsewhere. Potential wasted and enterprise frustrated. So today I am providing record investment for training and upskilling. £1.2 billion a year by the end of the spending review to support over 1 million young people into training and apprenticeships so that their potential, their drive and their ambition is frustrated no longer. And on the subject of skills, Mr. Speaker, we should all recognise the Leader of the Opposition's own commitment to lifelong learning. At the weekend, she promised to learn and to get better on the job. Well, I am sure that members of the benches opposite will be supporting her in that endeavour. Good luck with that. As we build a strong and secure and resilient economy, working people must feel the benefits. That starts with the security of a proper home. Our planning reforms have opened up the opportunity to build. Now we must act to make the most of those opportunities. And a plan to match the scale of the housing crisis must include social housing. Neglected for too many decades, but not by this Labour government. And so, led by my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, we are taking action. I am proud to announce the biggest cash injection into social and affordable housing in 50 years.
Right, here we
A
go.
new affordable homes programme in which I am investing £39 billion over the next decade. Direct government funding to support house building, especially for social rent. And I am pleased to report that towns and cities, including Blackpool, Preston, Sheffield and Swindon, have already had plans to bring forward bids to build those homes in their communities. And I have gone further. Mr. Speaker, last autumn, I enabled greater use of financial transactions to support investment in our infrastructure, alongside strict guardrails that ensure that money is spent wisely through our public financial institutions. And so, in line with that commitment, I am providing an additional £10 billion for financial investments, including to be delivered through Homes England. To crowd in private investment and unlock hundreds of thousands more homes. Homes built by a Labour government, homes built for working people. But, Mr. Speaker, it is no good investing in new skills, new jobs and new homes if they are not properly connected. That is why last week, with the support of my right honourable friend, the Transport Secretary, I announced £15 billion of investment to connect our cities and our towns, the biggest ever investment of its kind. Investments in buses in Rochdale, train stations in Merseyside and Middlesbrough, mass transit in West Yorkshire, and metro extensions in Birmingham, in Tyne Wear and in Stockport. And alongside that, we are backing Doncaster Airport. Today, I am announcing a 4-year settlement for Transport for London to provide certainty and stability for our largest local transport network to plan for the future. And for other regions in the UK, I am today providing for a 4-fold increase in local transport grants by the end of this Parliament to make the improvements put off for far too long to improve the journeys that people make every day. And to unlock the potential of all parts of Britain, we are going further, investing in major rail projects to connect our towns and cities.
Yes.
In October, I announced funding for the Transpennine route upgrade, the backbone of rail travel in the north, linking York and Leeds and Manchester, with a quarter of that route expected to be electrified by this summer. I know the commitment of my honourable friends, the members for Huddersfield, York Outer and Colne Valley to this issue. And today I can announce a further £3.5 billion of investment for that route. But my ambition and the ambition of people across the north is greater still. And so, in the coming weeks, I will set out this government's plan to take forward our ambitions for Northern Powerhouse Rail.
Stolen that off the Tories, haven't you?
I have also heard the representations of my honourable friends, the members for Milton Keynes North, Milton Keynes Central and Buckingham and Bletchley. And I can tell the House today, to connect Oxford and Cambridge and to back Milton Keynes' leading tech sector, I am providing a further £2.5 billion for the continued delivery of East-West Rail. And on a matter I know is of great importance to my honourable friends, the members for Lichfield, Birmingham Northfield and Birmingham Erdington, I can announce today that I am providing funding for the Midlands Rail Hub, the region's biggest and most ambitious rail improvement scheme for generations, strengthening connections from Birmingham across the West Midlands and into Wales too.
Oh, into Wales, oh good.
Mr. Speaker, for 14 years, the Conservatives failed the people of Wales. Those days are over. Following representations from my right honourable friend,
link
the
North
Welsh
and South
Secretary,
Wales.
the First Minister for Wales and Welsh Labour
Announce
MPs, I am pleased to announce today £445 million for railways in Wales over 10 years, including new funding for Padeswood Sidings and Cardiff West Junction. That, Mr. Speaker, is the difference made by 2 Labour governments working together to undo a generation of underfunding and neglect.
If you're travelling across Wales, you've got to go into England.
This government takes seriously its commitment to investment,
England,
jobs and
South
growth
Wales.
in every part of the UK. And I have heard the concerns of my honourable friends, the members for Mid Cheshire and Rossendale and Darwen, and the Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham. that past governments have underinvested in towns and cities outside of London and the South East.
Yes.
And they are right. So I am today publishing the conclusion of the review of the Treasury's Green Book, the government's manual for assessing value for money. Our new Green Book will support place-based business cases and make sure no region has Treasury guidance wielded against them. I said we would do things differently. I said we wanted growth in all parts of Britain, and Mr. Speaker, I meant it. Backing our nations and regions means backing our devolved governments. And this spending review provides the largest settlement in real terms since devolution was introduced, with £52 billion for Scotland, £20 billion for Northern Ireland by the end of the spending review, and £23 billion for Wales. And having heard representations from many Welsh Labour colleagues, and because I know the obligation we owe to our industrial communities, I'm providing a multi-year settlement of £118 million to keep coal tips safe in Wales. Mr. Speaker, I know the pride that people feel in their communities. I see it everywhere I go. But I also know that for too many people, there is a sense that something has been lost, as high streets have declined, as community spaces have closed, as jobs and opportunities have gone elsewhere.
Yeah, good point, Martin, about
the renewal of Britain must be felt
accommodation
everywhere. Today, I'm pleased to announce additional funding to support up to 350 communities, especially those in the most deprived areas. Funding to improve parks, youth facilities, swimming pools and libraries. Supporting councils' fight back against graffiti and fly tipping, including in Blackpool South, in Stockport, in Stoke Central, in Swindon North, and in Newcastle upon Tyne East and Wallsend. And there's more. Job creation and community assets are vital to our growth mission. But too often, regeneration projects are held back, gathering dust in bureaucratic limbo.
Yes.
We are changing that. We will establish a growth mission fund to expedite local projects that are important for growth. Projects like Southport Pier, an iconic symbol of coastal heritage which has stood empty since 2022. Kilcody's seafront and High Street, where investment would create jobs and new business opportunities. And plans for Peterborough's new sports quarter to drive activity and community cohesion. Because people deserve a government which shares their ambition for their communities. To deliver renewal, to deliver growth, to deliver opportunity. And that is what you get with a Labour government. If people are to feel pride in their community, enjoyed their public spaces and spend time on their high streets, they must feel safe when they do so. Safe in the knowledge that when people break the law, they feel the full force of the law. But the party opposite left our prisons overflowing and on the brink of collapse. And they left it to us to deal with the consequences. We are taking the necessary action. So with my right honourable friend, the Justice Secretary, we have announced that we are investing £7 billion to fund 14,000 new prison places and putting up to £700 million per year into reform of the probation system too. Today, I will do more. I am increasing police spending power by an average 2.3% per year in real terms over the spending review period. To protect our people, our homes and our streets. That is more than £2 billion, supporting us to meet our plan for change commitment of putting 13,000 additional police officers, PCSOs and special constables into neighbour policing roles across England and Wales. And as well as every place, I am determined that every family feels the benefits of Britain's renewal. Falling interest rates, supported by our commitment to economic stability, are already saving many families hundreds of pounds a month on their mortgage. I have accepted pay review body recommendations for pay in our armed forces, for our nurses, our teachers and our prison officers, giving public sector workers the fair pay rises that they deserve. And in autumn, I increased the national living wage, a pay rise for around 3 million hard-working people. And this government is doing more. We're banning exploitative zero-hour contracts. We're strengthening statutory sick pay and ending the injustice of unscrupulous fire and rehire practices. Those are my choices. Those are Labour choices. Mr. Speaker, I know that for many people, the cost of living remains a constant challenge, which is why we are capping the cost of school uniforms. And I can tell the House today that I am extending the £3 bus fare cap until at least March 2027. Earlier this week, we announced that over three-quarters of pensioners will receive the winter fuel payment this year. And there is more. To get bills down, not just this winter, but in winters to come, we have expanded the Warm Homes Plan to support thousands more of the UK's poorest households, including providing £7 million to homes in Bradford, £11 million to homes in Rugby, and £30 million to homes in Blackpool. And today I can announce that I will deliver in full our manifesto commitment to upgrade millions of homes, saving families and pensioners across the country up to £600 each and every year off their bills. I am determined to do everything in my power to put more money in people's pockets, to give people security and control in their lives, to make working people better off, and to show them that this government, this Labour government, is on their side. Mr. Speaker, taxpayers work hard for their money, and they expect their government to spend their money with care. So for the first time in 18 years, this government has run a zero-based review, a line-by-line assessment of what government spends, something that the Tories didn't bother to do in 14 years. And as a result of that work, and of our wider drive for efficiencies, led by my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, in this spending review, I have found savings. From the closure and sale of government buildings and land, cutting back office costs and reducing consultancy spend, all which the previous government failed to do. Reforms that will make public services more efficient, more productive and more focused on the user. I have been relentless in driving out inefficiencies. I will be relentless in cutting out waste, with every single penny reinvested back into our public services. Mr. Speaker, I joined the Labour Party almost 30 years ago because I knew that the Conservative Party, when I grew up, didn't care much about schools like mine.
She's the same age as me. Thanks for
with.
making me feel old, Rach.
Because I believe that every young person should have the equal chance to succeed, no matter where they come from, no matter what their parents do. I believe that just as strongly today as I did then. That is why at the budget last autumn, I ended the tax loophole which exempted private schools from VAT and business rates.
Yes!
And I put that money where it belongs, into helping the 93% of children in our state.
Yes, the 93%! Woo! Yeah!
Mr. Speaker,
it's us!
They oppose money for their local state schools, and I will always prioritise them. That was my choice. That is the Labour choice. And because of the decisions that we made in this spending review, and working with my right honourable friend, the Education Secretary, last week this government announced that free school meals will be extended to over 500,000 more children.
Yeah, brilliant.
That policy alone will lift 100,000 children out of poverty. Children in schools from Tower Hamlets to Sunderland and from Swansea to Bridgend. Last year at Labour Party conference, I was proud to announce the first steps in our plan to deliver breakfast clubs for every child, with an initial rollout to the first 750 schools. And we will continue with that national rollout as part of our manifesto commitment, so that no child goes hungry and every child can have the best chance to thrive and succeed. Yeah. And because I know that a good start in life does not just start at school, I can also announce £370 million for school-based nurseries to put us firmly on track to meet our plan for change commitment for a record number of children being school ready. And for children's social care, to break the dangerous cycle of late intervention and low quality care. I am providing £555 million of transformation funding over the spending review period, so that children do not go needlessly into care when they could stay at home. And for children where state intervention is necessary, better care and better outcomes.
Yes.
And last week I was pleased to announce, with my right honourable friend, the Culture Secretary, that more than £130 million from the Dormant Assets Scheme with the financial services sector will be allocated to fund facilities for our young people, to give every child the chance to take part in music, sport and in drama, to fund libraries in our schools, so that the confidence and the opportunity that those resources open up are no longer the preserve of the privileged few.
Yep, private school mafia.
Those are my choices. They are Labour's choices,
And the choices of the
they
people.
are the choices of the British people.
It's not a great
Overall,
mantra.
I am providing a cash uplift of over £4.5 billion a year
Catch 22.
for additional funding in the core schools budget by the end of the spending review, backing our teachers and backing our kids. Mr. Speaker, people who went to ordinary comprehensives in the 80s and 90s are all too familiar with the experience of being taught in temporary classrooms. And the previous Conservative government oversaw another generation of kids herded into cold and damp buildings as school roofs literally crumbled. It wasn't acceptable when I was at school, and it isn't acceptable now. So I am providing investment rising to nearly £2.3 billion per year to fix our crumbling classrooms. In addition, £2.4 billion per year to continue our programme to rebuild 500 schools, including Chase Community School in Enfield, Woodkirk Academy in Leeds and Budmouth Academy in Weymouth. Investing in our young people, investing in Britain's future, investing in opportunity for all. That is Labour's choice. Finally, Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the... I knew that, Chair. Let me turn to our
Someone's
National
shout, is that
Health
it?
Service.
NHS.
It's our most treasured public service. People rightly expect an NHS that is there
That and
when they
politics
need
social.
it.
Obs.
An ambulance that comes when they call one.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
A GP appointment available when they need one.
Yeah, that'd be nice as well.
A scan that is performed when they are referred for one. I am hugely grateful to our nurses, our doctors, our paramedics and other healthcare professionals for everything that they do. If we want a strong economy where working people can fulfil their potential, then we must have a strong NHS. Not as the Reform Party have called for, an insurance-based system.
Yeah, for the rich. For the rich, for the privately educated.
We believe in a publicly funded National Health Service free at the point of use. Now, perhaps the member for Clacton should spend some more time focusing on the priorities of the British people and less time in the Westminster Arms. Although, Mr. Speaker, after this week, perhaps the two-chairman pub might be a better fit.
Hey.
At the budget, I took the decisions necessary to provide an immediate injection of funding to get the NHS back on its feet. And I commend my right honourable friend, the Health Secretary, for all the progress that he has already made.
Oh, piss off.
In less than a year, this government has recruited 1,700 new GPs, delivered 3.5 million extra appointments, and cut waiting lists by more than 200,000.
The waiting list thing is quite
Fixing
impressive.
our NHS also means delivering fundamental reform across social care, which means that we are backing the first ever fair pay agreement for that sector. And I am increasing the NHS technology budget by almost 50%. And we are investing £10 billion to bring our analogue health system into the digital age, including through the NHS app, so patients can manage their prescriptions, get their test results and book appointments all in one place.
Okay,
we
I
are
do agree
shifting
with
care
that,
back
'cause
to the
bloody hell.
community, providing more funding to support the training of thousands more GPs to deliver millions more appointments. We are investing more in prevention to meet our manifesto commitment of providing mental health support teams in all schools in England by the end of this Parliament. These investments will enable the delivery of our upcoming 10-year plan for health and put the NHS firmly back on the path to renewal. And to support that plan, to back the doctors and nurses that we rely on, and to make sure that the NHS is there whenever we need it, I am proud to announce today that this Labour government is making a record cash investment in our National Health Service, increasing real terms day-to-day spending by 3% per year for every single year of this spending review. An extra £29 billion per year for the day-to-day running of our health service. Mr. Speaker, that is what the British people voted for, and that is what we will deliver. More appointments, more doctors, more scanners, the National Health Service, created by a Labour government, protected by a Labour government, and renewed by this Labour government. Mr. Speaker, this is a spending review to deliver the priorities of the British people. Security, a strong Britain in a changing world. Economic growth, powered by investment and opportunity in every part of Britain. And our nation's health, with an NHS fit for the future. I have made my choices. In place of chaos, I choose stability. In place of decline, I choose investments. In place of pessimism, division and defeatism, I choose national renewal.
I choose you.
These are my choices, Mr. Speaker. These are Labour choices. These are the choices of the British people, and I commend this statement to the House.
Okay, it has been commended. Now for the rebuttal.
Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride.
Oh, God, it's Mel Stride.
Mr. Speaker, this spending review is not worth the paper that it is written on.
Oh, all right.
The Chancellor has completely lost control.
Lost control.
This is the spend now, tax later review. Because the right honourable lady knows she will need to come back
Portsmouth
here in
Grammar
the
School,
autumn
which is actually a private
with yet
school.
more taxes. And a cruel summer of speculation awaits. How can we possibly take this Chancellor seriously after the chaos of the last 12 months?
Here's the private school mafia rebuttal.
We were
putting the butt into rebuttal.
That Labour's plans involve barely any additional spending or borrowing. Now the Chancellor parades her largesse. Hundreds of billions in additional spending over this Parliament. The initial profile for that spending was, of course, significantly front-loaded.
How is he
but
not
the
in my...
Chancellor now expects us to believe that she will let
That's
spending
right, it's not
rise
in
by
my
only
private school mafia list.
1.2% a year.
I fix that.
There is no chance whatsoever of that happening. For the lesson of the last year has been that when the going gets tough, the right honourable lady blinks. She presented herself as the Iron Chancellor, but what we have seen is the tin-foil Chancellor.
Very good.
Flimsy and ready to fold in the face of the slightest pressure. She
Hiding
said
under
she
the
would
table.
not fiddle her fiscal rules. Then she did.
Yes, she didn't.
She said she wouldn't make any unfunded commitments, but with the humiliation of the winter fuel U-turn, she just has. She looked business leaders in the eye and said no more taxes. But we all know what happened next, and we all know what is coming in the autumn. Her own backbenchers, her cabinet colleagues, Labour's trade union paymasters,
taxes on
even
working
the Prime
people, that's
Minister
what she said.
himself.
No new taxes on working people.
They have all seen that she is weak, weak, weak. And they can smell the blood.
This is really, really,
They will
really
be
poor.
back for more, Mr. Speaker, and they
He
will
sounds
get
exhausted.
it.
He sounds
These
tired.
spending plans are a fantasy.
Do you have a late night, mate?
And it's not the truth, Mr. Speaker, that the Chancellor has to maintain this fiction because she has left herself no room for manoeuvre. She is constantly teetering on the edge of blowing her fiscal rules, which she already changed to allow even more borrowing. And the only way she can claim to be meeting her rules is by pretending that she can control spending over the coming years. But, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the record so far. Borrowing in the last financial year came out $11 billion above even the OBR's March forecasts, and 70% higher than the plans that she inherited from this side of the House.
Tax up, borrowing up.
But for someone so keen on borrowing, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor seems strangely reticent to even use the word. Indeed, ministers bizarrely tell us that it is Labour's fiscal rules themselves that have, quote, generated investment. The reality is a little more straightforward.
Come on,
They
tell us
have
what's happening.
loosened the fiscal rules so they can borrow more.
Right.
Borrow and borrow and borrow, allowing the national debt to continue to rise higher every single year, while ministers pretend that it is not. An eye-watering £200 billion of additional borrowing in this Parliament compared to the plans set out in the last Conservative budget, with £80 billion more to be spent on debt interest alone. In fact, if she had retained our fiscal rules, as she said, they may laugh, Mr. Speaker. If she had retained our fiscal rules, as she said she would before the election,
Oh, yeah, your fiscal rules.
the OBR have confirmed that she would be breaking them right now.
Breaking what?
Mr. Speaker, our country
Okay, what?
is now vulnerable. Vulnerable to even the smallest changes in the bond markets. Should we face a
Vulnerable.
sudden
It was vulnerable
external
under you,
shock,
you dickhead.
we have no fiscal firepower left with which to respond. All thanks to the Right Honourable Lady's choices. So can I ask the Chancellor, will she be open about what she has done? Will she admit that she has made a conscious choice to borrow more and to accept higher debts? Does she accept this means interest rates and mortgages will be higher than they would otherwise have been, as the OBR themselves have said? And given she continues to claim that she has brought stability to the public finances, can I ask her what on earth her definition of stability is? And, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor must be delighted that she does not have to face a new OBR forecast today. Because if she did, she would have to set out how she will fund her humiliating U-turn on winter fuel payments, having already blown the savings and buying off her trade union paymasters last year. She said this week there was, and I quote, she said, still work to do to ensure that the sums add up. Hardly reassuring from the person in charge of the nation's finances, Mr. Speaker. You don't need to have worked at the Bank of England for a decade to know that that pitiful utterance is unlikely to soothe the markets. So can the Chancellor confirm categorically that there will be no additional borrowing to pay for this chaotic reversal? And if this is the case, can she explain how on earth it can be paid for without raising taxes? And can the Right Honourable Lady explain why last summer, apparently to avoid a run on the pound, Mr. Speaker, this measure was so urgent that pensioners had to be left in the cold over the last winter? What exactly has changed? Because it certainly hasn't been made possible by an improvement in the economy or the public finances, which the IFS said this week are both in a worse state now than when Labour came into office. And if we had an OBR forecast, we might also get some answers on how the government intends to find £3.5 billion to abolish the two-child benefit cap, which we are led to believe is imminent. Another addition to the ballooning welfare bill. Another expensive surrender to the Labour
Surrender.
And we would certainly get the OBR's
What
assessment
are you on about,
of the
you
economic
mad
outlook
bastard?
following the tariff
It's a surrender.
changes the Right Honourable Lady knew full well were coming. Meanwhile, her deluge of taxes and regulations has left business confidence at record lows, costing people their livelihoods.
Costing people their lives, I tell you, their
Mr.
lives.
Speaker, we saw the latest evidence of that. Figures for last month show the number of people on payrolls fell by more than 100,000 after already falling by 55,000 in April. Unemployment is up by more than 10% since Labour came to office. The Right Honourable Lady may trumpet extra spending today, but is not the simple truth that she has trashed the economy and left no contingency in the face of a highly volatile global outlook. It's not the reality, Mr. Speaker, that the Chancellor knows she will have to come back in the autumn with more tax rises to fund these plans. Or can she assure us right now that this is not the case? Yes or no? We know that the Deputy Prime Minister has helpfully provided her with an entire brochure of tax rises that she will no doubt be perusing over the summer. The Corbynist catalogue, Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God! They've done it! He actually did it! Can you believe this? He just broke out the emergency Corbyn! The emergency Corbyn! Oh my God! He's not been the leader since 2020! 5 years!
And Mr. Speaker, what about the uncertainties
Oh my
in the
word!
departmental spending plan
Oh,
she
this
has
is
just
such
set out
dross.
today?
Sorry,
Can
I'm
she
barely
assure
listening
us
to him.
that these plans will not be topped up, that no backroom deals have been cut with disgruntled cabinet ministers? Can she assure us that the capital allocations announced today will actually be spent on capital, not diverted in year as she has in the past, to day-to-day budgets to play more games with her fiscal rules? The Chancellor has had to impose a settlement on the Home Secretary because this spending review won't deliver for our hard-working police officers across the country. Instead, the Home Office budget gets squandered on asylum costs because this government simply doesn't have a plan on illegal migration. And as the Defence Secretary admitted, and I quote, the government has lost control of our borders. Small boat crossings, Mr. Speaker, are up 42% on the same point last year.
Bit fucking rich.
On energy, at a time when businesses up and down the country are struggling with high energy costs. The Chancellor has chosen today to fund the Energy Secretary's vanity projects like GB Energy.
Where is he?
And while we welcome the announcements on expanding nuclear capacity, the scale of ambition is a downgrade on the commitments made previously on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, the party opposite barely mentioned farming in their manifesto. And now we know why. It's not enough to have hit the farmers in our country with a family farm tax. Today, what we see in black and white is a choice to make further cuts to the vital grants on which many farmers rely. A huge betrayal of our farming communities, and something which many of her MPs in rural areas will have to go back to their constituencies later this week to explain. And on defence, we will always welcome any additional investment in our armed forces and capability.
But there isn't any.
Though I note, Madam Deputy Speaker, nothing was said about when 3% will be achieved. All we heard was that in the intelligence service spending was to be included in defence spending to flatter the numbers. We left the party opposite a fully funded plan, which they didn't over for a year. But now, What we
We
get
left
is
them
the
a fully
Chancellor's-
funded plan.
What we get is the
He's just
Chancellor's
lying.
black
He's just
hole on defence
absolutely
spending.
lying.
The lack of a timeline on when we will achieve the 3%. Instead, we get a
that better?
£30 billion bill for the Chagos surrender. Money which should
How
go
is it
to
a
our
surrender?
brave armed forces,
We were told to do
rather
it
than
by
it's
the
being
international
reported
courts.
funding lower taxation in Mauritius.
We're
The
not-
first tax cuts for which this Chancellor has ever been responsible are in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, we would have made different choices. We would not have killed growth with huge tax rises and new regulations.
What a chode.
We would not have talked down our economy and the great businesses up and down our country.
Mel
We
Chode.
would be focusing
Hello, Mel.
on efficiency and productivity in the public
Mel
sector
Strode? Mel
and not
Mel
handing
Strode.
out pay rises with no strings attached. And we would be getting a grip on welfare.
Oh, did he say that? Did he say that? Hang on a sec.
To health and disability
Get a grip.
benefits that would have seen 450,000 fewer people on long-term sickness benefits.
What's this
That
guy
is
doing?
a
What's this guy?
disgrace.
What's this guy
And
doing
instead
over
of
here?
proper
What is he
reforms
doing?
to PIP, their own plans are a rushed cost-cutting exercise. So rushed they even had to change them after they had announced them. And their own backbenchers are in full revolt. Yet again, they talk tough, but there is no substance. The Right Honourable Lady
His head
has
sort
no
of is
grip.
in his shoulders. He's like
She
this,
has
isn't he?
no clue. The markets and the public see a Chancellor completely out of her depth.
Do they?
Having blown her headroom and more from her budget in the autumn, she was forced into an emergency budget in March to scrabble around to try and repair the damage. Today she comes before us again with yet another fantastical tale that she knows will have completely fallen apart come the autumn. So we are not left with stronger foundations, as the Right Honourable Lady would have us believe, but rather another dose of that hallmark for which her actions have made her so renowned: uncertainty and failure.
Failure.
And so there she sits, Mr. Speaker, powerless to resist her disillusioned MPs and her panicking Prime Minister.
Disillusioned MPs.
Like a cork, like a cork.
That's a bit rich coming from your side, mate.
Beat for U-turn pounding in her ears.
Disillusioned MPs. No, you all look like the one that fucking, the one that heard your fucking note.
Uplands await. What a hopeless
Disillusioned.
conceit. A masterclass in delusion.
You lot are listening to fucking radio and the Dignitas. Disillusioned. I gotta miss that. Let's go back.
Pounding in her ears.
Pounding in her ears.
Yet her tone today suggests that all is well. The sunlit uplands await. What a hopeless conceit. A masterclass in delusion. Inflation.
A masterclass in delusion, yes. This is a masterclass in delusion.
Growth is marked down. Business and households are hurting.
He's so bad at this. Who are you? Who are
The
you?
bond market vigilantes circle. And here we have the Chancellor, who
Bond market
refuses to
vigilantes.
listen. Not only tin-foil, but tin-eared too. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker.
What is he on about?
It is working people and businesses who will pay the price come the autumn, with yet more taxes to pay for her weakness and
my
her
Lord.
failures. Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford this spending review. And for many, the growing conclusion is that we cannot afford
Amateurs.
this Chancellor.
Oh my god, I thought Kemi Badenoch was bad.
I will address the Shadow Chancellor's specific points in a moment, but I want to start by acknowledging
him for
the
being
progress
rubbish.
he has made. After all, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's been quite a week for him. Last Thursday, he gave a speech saying it will take time for his party to win back trust on the economy. And today he showed us how far he and his party have to go to be able to achieve that. Now, I want to give him some credit for last week's analysis. He said that the Conservative Party was seen to have failed. He's right. He said that the last Conservative government put at risk the very stability which Conservatives had always said must be carefully protected. Madam Deputy Speaker, I agree with him. And he said that on his party's...
Chancellor, I need to be able to hear, and I'm sure our constituents would also want to hear. Chancellor.
He said that the credibility of the UK's economic framework was undermined by spending billions with no proper plan for how it would be paid for. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't have put it better myself. Now, the Shadow Chancellor could have gone a lot further. For example, Madam Deputy Speaker, he couldn't even bring himself to mention Liz Truss by name. Stride by name, baby steps by nature. But at least he's made a start. He also spoke about, and I quote, the death of what we might call the age of thoughtfulness. And speaking of the death of thoughtfulness, let me now turn to his response to the spending review. Now, the Shadow Chancellor welcomed our nuclear investment of £30 billion, but he said it's not enough. He welcomed our defence investment of £11 billion, but he said it was not enough. He and his party opposed the decisions that this government has taken to make those announcements possible by voting against the budget in October last year. Madam Deputy Speaker, you can't spend the money if you won't raise the money. Now that's a lesson from Liz Truss that he has already forgotten. He complained about the level of investment that I've announced, ignoring the fact that the reason this investment is so important is because his party oversaw 14 years of cratering investment, stagnating wages and public service collapse. So let me remind him of what I said, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Tories' fiscal rules guaranteed neither stability nor investment, and that is why I changed them, so that we can get stability and we can get investment. All their fiscal rules enabled was them to crash the economy, and the working people of Britain will never forgive them for doing that. So the party opposite set themselves against investment in the renewal of Britain. They set themselves against NHS investment, free school meals, investment in skills, investment in carbon capture and storage, investment in transport in our towns and in our cities, investment in everything that we've set out today. And yet the British people voted for them. And the honourable gentleman says, the right honourable gentleman says that the Home Office budget involves an increase in asylum costs. It doesn't. Asylum costs are coming down under this Labour government because we are deporting more people and getting them out of hotels. He says that we're cutting police spending, we're increasing it by 2.3% in real terms a year. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, we've had no apology. No apology for the damage that they did to our economy or to our public services. In the last 11 months, interest rates have been cut 4 times. GDP was the fastest growing of all G7 economies in the first quarter of this year. Business confidence is rising. 500,000 more people are in work. Record investment has been made in Britain. Real wages have increased more in 10 months than they did in 10 years of the Conservative government. The national living wage has increased, giving 3 million working people a pay rise. And we've done all of this without increasing taxes on working people. Those are the choices that we have made. That is the difference that we are making. And in the spending review today, we set out the spending that we announced in the budget last year and in the spring statement. Not a penny more, not a penny less. I said in the budget and in the spring statement that public services must now live within the means that we have set, and we have achieved that. There will be a budget later this year, and in that budget we will set out in the round all of the fiscal plans. But we have already drawn a line under the Tory mismanagement with tax rises last year, and we will never have to repeat a budget like that again, because we will never have to clean up after the mess that the party opposite made again.
He did make a mess of it, to be fair.
The reason that this Labour government has spent its first year fixing the foundations of our economy and stabilising our
Good
public
point,
finances
SG. They don't like mentioning the B word, do they?
The government of which the Shadow Chancellor was a part of left an unenviable legacy, which is why his party is, in his own words, in a difficult place. Now, we've made our choices. Removing barriers to growth, barriers untouched by the party when they were in office for 14 years. Strengthening Britain's security, the biggest real terms increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War, something that they did not do when they had 14 years in office. Bringing our health service in the 21st century after neglect by the party opposite in their 15 years in office. Investing in Britain's renewal to repair the damage done by the party opposite in their 14 years in office. And Madam Deputy Speaker, in stark contrast to the Conservatives' 14 years of chaos, waste and decline, we are delivering on the priorities of the British people.
Delivering! Meg Hillier.
Thank you,
All the
Madam
Tory
Deputy
backbenchers
Speaker, and I
left.
congratulate my
Well
right
spotted.
honourable friend for delivering this spending review,
Delivering!
the first zero-based review in a very long time.
I can't believe
think
they
it's
broke the
absolutely
emergency
vital
Corbyn.
that
That's
as
the
the
emergency Corbyn
taxpayer,
button.
the citizen, are looking very carefully at their spending in the cost of living crisis, that government does that too. And we look forward to having the Chief Secretary for the Treasury in front of the Select Committee
Emergency
in 2 weeks'
Corbyn.
time to look at this in more detail. I particularly noticed from the figures that she has made a good fist of ensuring that government
Frisky wild
departments
horses in the
have
court
more than
walk.
under the Conservatives in very many cases. And I very much welcome her
misspeak all the time
work
when I'm
on
doing live
delivering
stuff,
on
so,
child
I can't
poverty,
really-
tackling that scourge
Got nothing to
on
say.
our society. I do note, however, in the
It's
brief
funny.
glimpse I've had at the figures, that for the Department of Housing, Communities and Local Government, there is a smaller increase than there would have been, and there is this £39 billion over a decade for affordable social housing. Those children living in poverty also have the poverty of situation in many cases. So could she expand on how she's going to see that money, with her, the Deputy Prime Minister, delivered to provide that social housing that so
Liam,
many
I
of
almost
those
died
children
when
in
they said
poverty
Corbyn.
desperately need?
Chancellor.
They've got nothing. They got nothing.
I thank my right honourable friend for that question, and I appreciate her welcoming the breakfast clubs, the free school meals, also the capping in school uniform costs to help families living in poverty, and the free school meals, as my honourable friend knows, will lift 100,000 children out of poverty. She mentions the social affordable homes grant. The affordable homes grant is going to have its biggest ever increase, and we've set that budget for 10 years to give certainty to the sector so they understand what is available. And in addition, we have set out some social rent changes to give certainty to the sector to invest for the future.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Daisy Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's been almost a year since Labour swept to power with the promise of change, but we are still not seeing the scale of ambition needed to turn the country around. We welcome the announcement of investment in the NHS, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in social care too. We welcome the investment in infrastructure, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in skilling up the workforce we need to build it. And cutting billions from departmental budgets in real terms seems unnecessary when the government could instead go for growth and get a much deeper trading relationship with Europe, a move which could raise an extra £25 billion per year for the public purse. For as long as the government fails to truly tackle the red tape and trading barriers blocking British businesses, the government's grip on economic growth is more akin to a handbrake than an accelerator.
I thought it did sound very positive
Madam
for a
Deputy
change.
Speaker, the last Conservative government left our NHS on its knees. On their watch, waiting lists were soaring, hospitals
Tory
were
going, "No, we
crumbling,
didn't.
and our
No,
high street
no, we
healthcare
didn't."
was hollowed out. Can the
was
Chancellor
COVID.
confirm
It was
that this
COVID.
funding will deliver the extra 8,000 GPs that are needed to guarantee everyone an appointment within 7 days or 24 hours if urgent? Can the Chancellor confirm that this funding will bring dentists back into the NHS and put an end to dental deserts? Can the Chancellor promise that this funding will mean that every cancer patient starts treatment within 62 days? And will she promise that the government will meet the Prime Minister's own pledge that 92% of routine operations will take place within 18 weeks? Will the Chancellor and the Health Secretary, sitting side by side, set up a crumbling hospitals task force to look at creative funding ideas to bring construction dates forward and put an end to the vicious cycle that we saw under the previous government, and false economies of delayed rebuilds leading to rising repair costs. And then, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is the elephant in the NHS waiting room, the crisis in our social care services. The Chancellor knows. The Health and Social Care Secretary knows. This whole Parliament knows that today's investment in the NHS will be like pouring water into a leaky bucket if hospitals cannot discharge patients who are well enough to leave because there aren't the care workers to help them recover at home.
Absolutely right.
This fair pay agreement that the Chancellor talks about, of course, is welcome, but it is barely a baby step, and it is nowhere near enough to bring back social care from the brink. At a bare minimum, we need a higher minimum wage for our care workers to stop the sector hemorrhaging care workers to other sectors. So when will the Chancellor finally recognise that we will never fix the NHS if we don't fix social care too? And will the government finally act with urgency and commit to concluding the social care review by the end of this year, not in 3 years' time? On housing, we warmly welcome the government's investment in social homes. Will the government now commit to the Liberal Democrats' target of building 150,000 social homes every single year? Madam Deputy Speaker, other public services are crying out for investment too. Our communities need proper neighbourhood policing to feel safe. Our farmers need fair support payments to keep food on our tables. And people of all ages deserve access to training and skills to build their future and to help power our economy forward. That's why it's so disappointing that the Chancellor has today made things so difficult for some of our public services, cutting unprotected budgets by billions. Yes, we know she was faced with the fallout from the most reckless and the most out-of-touch Conservative government in recent memory. But being responsible is not just about taking tough decisions. It's about having the moral courage to make the right ones. Yet this government seems determined not to adopt the one policy that could put rocket boosters on our economy and raise billions for our public services. A proper trade deal with Europe. A new business customs union with the EU could boost our GDP by more than 2.2%, securing additional revenue to the tune of £25 billion a year. A huge boost to businesses and to our struggling public services too.
Good point.
If the Chancellor can U-turn on the winter fuel payment, thanks to a skinny EU trade pact worth just 0.2% in extra GDP, just imagine how many more U-turns she could perform with a proper trade deal worth 10 times as much.
Very good, very good.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we Liberal Democrats strongly support the allocation of 2.5% of GDP on defence. But we want to see ministers go further and faster to bolster our national security
Gina, they've gone the pub.
in today's uncertain world. Will the Chancellor agree to cross-party talks in which we can work together to set a pathway to 3% of GDP well ahead of 2034? Will the government use some of today's investment to reverse the Conservatives' irresponsible 10,000 troop cut? And will the Chancellor make sure that investing in our national security becomes a lever for economic growth, putting a much greater emphasis on British steel producers and SMEs as we scale up our defences? And will the Chancellor ensure that British start-ups can use defence innovation for the public good? Before I conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, I must thank the Chancellor for finally completing the world's slowest U-turn on the unfair winter fuel payments cut. Now that the Chancellor has U-turned, will she do the right thing and backdate the payment for all those who lost out on support this past winter?
It's too high anyway. It should be 35,000, it should be 15,000.
And now the Chancellor has U-turned once, will she make it a hat-trick and also change course on PIP and carers allowance cuts as well? Perhaps the Chancellor might even look again at the growth-crushing jobs tax and other changes affecting our high streets, small businesses and family businesses, and instead look at the fairer ways of raising revenue, of course, on PIP and carers allowance cuts as well. Perhaps the Chancellor might even look again at the growth-crushing jobs tax and other changes affecting our high streets, small businesses and family businesses, and instead look at the fairer ways of raising revenue that we Liberal Democrats have set out time and time again, raising the same amount of revenue from the big banks, the social media giants and the online gambling companies to start paying their fair share of tax.
Yeah.
Madam Deputy Speaker,
sit down and
after
shut up.
years of chaos and incompetence under the last Conservative government, this was a unique opportunity to draw a line under the social care crisis, squeezed budgets and sluggish economic growth. So I strongly urge the Chancellor, will she ignore those who talk down Britain's economic potential? Will she rip up the red tape holding British businesses back? And will she strike a properly ambitious trade deal with Europe that will turbocharge our economy and bring in the billions to rebuild our public services? The government says its #1 mission is growth. This would be the way to deliver it.
Deliver! She's right.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for her comments. I know she hasn't had a chance to look at the figures yet, but it's not right to say that there are real terms cuts to public services. Public service spending is increasing by 2.3% a year on average over the course of the spending review. If we start on investment in the NHS and in social care, we've already delivered, as I set out in my speech, 1,500 more GPs. We've put £26 billion already in the first phase of the spending review into the NHS. I just note that compares to the £8 billion of money you said you were going to, the Liberal Democrats said they were going to put into the NHS in their manifesto.
I'd say you.
We've already put £26 billion in, and we've put more money in today in every year of this Parliament. The new hospital programme is being rolled out, and the Health Secretary met, I think, just last week with members of Parliament who are having hospital improvements in their local communities, including with many Liberal Democrat MPs. So she should be aware that we are making improvements to the fabric of our hospitals, as well as investing in technology and scanners, etc., to improve productivity in our health service. With regards to social care, we are, as the Honourable Lady knows, we are introducing the fair pay agreement in social care. That's something that the Health Secretary and my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, are very much committed to. We've increased, as she'll know when she looks at the documents, local government spending power so we can put more money into social care. And in addition, Louise Casey is doing her review into the future of social care. On investment in infrastructure, yes, we are going big on infrastructure. £100 billion more announced in the budget last year, another £13 billion in the spring statement, and we're backing that up with skills, as I set out in my speech and as detailed in the spending review documents. Biggest ever investment in young people's skills.
Yeah, just to thank SG for the super chat, and also I'll read it out. I like the way that the Lib Dems make their point and ask questions, and in return it means that the replies are of higher quality too. Yeah. If someone stands up and says, "Why are you a knobhead?" you're not going to give them a sensible and thought out answer, are you? You're just going to say, "Yeah, ma," or something back. If someone says to you, "Why are you doing this? Can you just explain this, and how are you going to do that?" then you can stand up and you can make your case and you can explain why you're doing what you're doing. But the Tories don't give them an opportunity to do that. And Kemi Badenoch, she's so bad at the PMQs. I can't believe it. We've been doing this now for over 6 months with her in charge, right, of the Tories. And she hasn't improved at all. She's just so bad at it. She goes, essentially, "I think you're shit. Tell us why you aren't shit." And then the Prime Minister stands up and goes, "Oh, I don't think we're shit because we did all this stuff." And then sits down again. And that's it. Like, it's just, you're not asking a question. You're not trying to find anything else. It just gives the Prime Minister an excuse to brag. And it makes her look crap. It just makes the Tories look rubbish. And they're like, "Oh, disinterested." And the Tories just left. They all left while Mel Strider was speaking. They just left the house. Unbelievable.
So that they can access the new jobs that are being created in defence, in house building, in other infrastructure too. On the issue of red tape and backing business, I mean, I just think it's a little bit ironic, Madam Deputy Speaker, when they voted against the Planning and Infrastructure Bill yesterday, that they come to the House today saying they want to do away with red tape and go for growth. Well, we want to go for growth. That's why we took that legislation through Parliament, and perhaps she'll ask her Lords to vote for growth in the other place. On trade deals, we've done a trade deal with the US, with India and with the EU. I think that the Liberal Democrats opposed the trade deal with the US, but now apparently they think that trade deals are the way to go. Well, so do we. That's why my right honourable friend...
It's not quite what they were saying, though, is it?
Three of them that are helping our automotive sector, our steel sector and our farming
Not quite what they were saying,
communities.
though. Come on.
On defence...
Specifically, it was about
yes,
the
we will
EU.
use defence spending to support growth. The Defence Secretary and I have been very clear.
Scared of the question there. She was specifically asked about rejoining the customs union or the customs union and the single market.
About that, and as I set out in the speech, making Britain a defence industrial superpower. But I would just sort of say, gently to the Liberal Democrats and the Honourable Lady, if you want to support investment in public services, you've got to increase the tax rises to get there. And so they voted against the national insurance increase, which is what has enabled us to make the investments that I've set out today. Now, the Honourable Lady says she wants a wealth tax. Well, we changed inheritance tax. We changed inheritance tax and the Liberal Democrats voted against it. We introduced VAT on private schools. The Liberal Democrats voted against it. So either they are serious about investing in public services, in which case they need to back the tax increases, or they want to go down the route of the magic money tree party opposite, where they're just going to borrow more to pay for things. And on the winter fuel allowance, we've made our choices clear. We're going to keep the means test, but it will be paid to people with a pension less than £35,000. I think the Liberal Democrats want to make it a universal benefit again. Oh, OK, that's just the Tories. Well, they need to explain how they would pay for it. So, look, I appreciate the fact that she welcomes some of our policies, but I would just say that the job of Chancellor and the job of government is to make sure that the sums add up. And we made difficult decisions last October, but I stand by those difficult decisions, because without them, today we would not have been able to make the investments we've made in schools, in energy and in our health service. I'm proud of what we've achieved as a government. I'm proud of the investment that we're putting in today.
Bill Esterson.
Hello, Bill. Matty.
The Warm Homes Plan will mean healthier homes, it will mean warmer homes, it will see lower bills, and it will create jobs in communities right across the country. It is a very good plan, especially for those facing fuel poverty. The last government's home energy programme changed every few months, which meant that businesses couldn't plan and consumers had no confidence in
Donkey,
it.
thank you very much for the £2.22.
Application
Two Sig Lib Dems, fairer raving.
Thanks,
Donkey.
So will my right honourable friend confirm that this is a long-term warm homes
not answered the PIP
plan
question. Very
that will deliver warmer homes
out.
and cut bills for the benefit of millions of our constituents for
Deliver.
years to come?
I thank the Chair of the Select Committee for that intervention. Warm homes is a big part of our plan to tackle the cost of living crisis. And the money that we've put into the Warm Homes plan today will mean millions more homes being able to be retrofitted with better boilers, with insulation, with solar panels. And that on average takes £600 a year of people's bills, not just for 1 year, but for every year to come. And my honourable friend is absolutely right that what we've done today is set out a 5-year package of capital investment, because it is crucial that the industry is able to plan for the future, and young people are therefore willing to train up, and the businesses are willing to invest in apprenticeships. And so that's why on all of our capital spending, including the Warm Homes plan, we've set out a 5-year plan.
Yeah, no direct response on the PIP question. I agree, and that's even just to allay the fears of people. They could have said something. I don't know why they've chosen not to. I just think they're getting really bad advice at the moment on some matters. Some of the stuff in their spending review is really good, but it's going to be undermined if some of the most vulnerable people in our society, feel threatened, feel like they're not going to be able to have the reasonable adjustments in their life to be able to, thrive.
Dame Harriet Baldwin.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And my constituents in Tenbury Wells, where they're seeking funding for the flood defence scheme, will have listened very closely to the Chancellor's remarks today to hear her mention flood defence capital spending, and yet it wasn't mentioned in her speech. So can she confirm that the capital that will be allocated in this spending review period to flood defences is going to be as high in real terms as it was in the previous Parliament?
Chancellor.
Well, the honourable lady knows that we increased money for flood defences in the spending review in autumn last year because we knew that there was no time to waste. So we have already increased that flood defence spending in addition to what the previous government was spending.
Liam Byrne.
Madam Deputy Speaker, this spending review is good for business. It's good for Britain's business because it invests in the things that British business need. It invests in skills, in infrastructure, in innovation, it cuts red tape and it supports small firms. But can the Chancellor just clarify that this spending review will also now open a new era of energy abundance for our country? The Business Committee heard directly from the IMF in Washington yesterday that high energy costs are now holding back growth. That is a consequence of the dither and the delay from the party opposite that left us with the highest industrial energy costs in Europe. Will she now confirm for the House that we are now consigning that era to our history?
Chancellor.
I thank my right honourable friend for his...
I think we're going to leave it at that, my friends, because it's 2:00 now, and most people have left the chamber, and it's just going to be about batting away questions now, I think, more than anything else. You're going to have the people on the Tory side saying, "Oh, you're terrible, you didn't do anything," and then the people on Labour going, "Oh, this is an amazing thing that you've done, isn't it amazing?" And yeah, nothing in between. So just a little moment to just have a look at the chat here. We've got Vendetta saying, "Replace the Christo-fascist with a picture of Ernst Rom." And we've got L saying, "Is Streeting married? If so, he won't be if Refuck gets in." Yes, good point. He'll probably have to go to, what do they call it? That horrible thing they do where they try and convert people. Conversion therapy. He'll probably have to have conversion therapy. So he fancies ladies rather than men. Clupid Bloroscope is in the chat. What's Clupid Bloroscope said? I've got a reply, but I haven't got what Clupid Bloroscope actually wrote. Oh, there you go. The Lib Dems have low-key impressed me late recently. Still won't forgive them for 2010. They're actually offering opposition that is sorely needed. Yeah, I feel the same way, Clupid Bloroscope. I wish they were the official opposition because they actually force the Prime Minister or the Chancellor in this case to answer some questions that I want the answers to. Otherwise, it is just, like I said earlier, I mean, Kemi Badenoch and that performance by Mel Stride, that was absolutely appalling. I mean, it was a bit like watching a stand-up comedian who's only got one joke, trying to spin it for like 15 minutes, and he's only got one joke, and it's just embarrassingly bad. Land tax as Unquiet Badger. Yes. Colin says, never a good idea to hold a grudge against a party because of what they did 4 or 5 leaders ago. No. I mean, look, I feel that way as well, and I kind of understand that politicians will fuck up, and there's never going to be a party. There doesn't exist a party that is perfect, that does everything that I want them to do. And looking at some of the things that the Lib Dems want to do, I think fucking great. Some of the things the Greens want to do, brilliant. Some of the things that the SNP or Plaid Cymru want to do, fantastic. Yeah, amazing stuff. I really, really agree with a lot of stuff in there. However, they've got to get into power in order to do those things. And I've got reason to be pissed with Labour. I've got reason to be pissed with the Lib Dems. I've got reason to be pissed with the Greens for things that they've done in the past. And yeah, I think that the best way to move forward is to find things where these parties agree and really push them and really go for them. And I don't know if the parliamentary model that they have at the moment is particularly good for that kind of thing. The idea is that if you are the opposition, you can put in an amendment to a bill to make it more palpable, and then if the amendment goes through, then you vote for the bill. But more often than not, you just have a bill going through, and the opposition, the Lib Dems and the Tories and the Greens, everyone else, they'll all vote against it because it's not their bill. And that kind of territorialism in our political system, I don't think is particularly helpful. And also, I just think back to the winter of 2019, the winter of discontent, when Labour were turning up on people's doorsteps and saying, we were really crap the last time we got in. God, Tony Blair, he was a fucking jerk. He was an idiot. Oh my God, look at all the terrible things he did the bloody Iraq war, the twat. Yeah, that was him. What a gobshite. Vote for us. And I'm like, maybe stop going on about times you fucked up in the past. I mean, you can apologise for it, but that'll be a start, wouldn't it? But yeah, so I sort of, it's not like I just woke up yesterday and went, okay, let's look at everything with a fresh new pair of eyes. And I will hold things against the Tories that they've done that have fucked up people's lives, fucked up my life. For the rest of time, probably. But that's fine. They're the Tories. I never have to even consider voting for them. I never have to consider voting for refuck. I don't have to. But when it comes to the Greens, when it comes to Labour and the Lib Dems, I will take what they've got to offer, and I'm not saying I'm going to ignore what happened in the past. I always approach these things with a little bit of trepidation, but I'm more willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have learnt from their mistakes and moved than to keep banging on about the past. That's why I supported Labour in the last election, even though the previous leader basically, along with the Tories, helped absolutely derail my career. Gobshite. Anyway, I've voted Lib Dems before and agree with many of their policies, but they tend to have fancy budgets, unfortunately, plus their leaflets are dire. Just sad faces pointing at potholes. I love that nick and dip. Graham Fang, I'm hoping that the main spending review has been announced. They will stop restraining themselves now that it's out in the open. Yeah, I hope so. Gallifreyman, oh good, I was worried we wouldn't get snivelling self-congratulation for you. Is that me cutting the... I have to say, like, look, Richard Bergen did a really good question there, because he did say, well, if you turned on the winter fuel allowance, will you U-turn on PIP? And that's a Labour MP standing up and saying that, and I was kind of like, he was just saying, like, we're going to find it very difficult, us backbenchers, to back any cuts to PIP, which I think they will. PIP wasn't really mentioned in this at all. And even though Daisy Cooper from the Lib Dems brought it up in her question, Rachel Reeves didn't even try to answer the question. So there you go. We hope your back is feeling better today, Graham, says Trip Trip. I'm okay. I'm a bit better. Yesterday, I was total touche turtle. Like, if I was lying on my back, I couldn't sit up. I had to sort of roll off to one side. I was going to do Geoscope. I was up for doing it. But I texted Ollie, and Ollie got back to me and said, look, I'm going to be late getting started, which is fine, you know. And I just thought, I can't be bothered, because I knew that it would mean, like, having to sit here for an hour or so, and I just didn't know whether I'd back to take it. But then again, to be honest with you, I think it's better for whatever I've done to my back. With those of you who don't know, I twanged me back just before I started the show yesterday, just before I started Morning Brew. I'm probably best going for a walk. But the thing is, I've stopped playing Pokemon Go because it was bought by the Saudi Arabian government. So out of principle, I stopped playing it. So I've got no reason to go for a walk now, except it's an absolutely lovely day. How bad is that? How bad is it that I'm like, if I'm not counting my footsteps or hatching a Pokemon egg, what's the point of going out? Yeah, I'm going to go for a walk after this, because I think the exercise is actually better than lying down in this case. which is sometimes the case with aches and pains, especially as you get older. Glue pit plovoscope, the Labour Party, unforgivable for me. I've done with them. I'm green for the foreseeable. I'll be open to Lib Dems, their second choice. Vendetta says, I'll be voting Lib Dem next time. If I'm still here, we'll never vote Labour again unless they sack Ernst. Are you talking about fucking WED Streeting? I can't see him surviving this parliament. You know, he's just too disliked. But we will see. MZ says, there are going to be thunderstorms. Oh, I love thunderstorms. Hope Lincolnshire County Council can manage the rainfall and possible flooding. Their flood warning preventative measures committee has now been cut by Farage's Coke company. Probably. Walk to the chippy. Graham, what the fuck? What, I don't know what I just said. That was weird. I was being a bit facetious. It was a bit of a joke. Like, it's a beautiful day. I should go for a walk, but I don't play Pokemon anymore. So what's the point of going for a walk? Train spotting. Talk to a tree while you're out, says Unquiet Badger. Yeah, I might do that. Sorry to hear your back's been playing out. Definitely go for walks out, says MZ. Yeah. It's not been playing out. It was just yesterday. It was honestly, I was about to start the show and I adjusted my camera and it's the HDMI cable goes into the side of it. And as I adjusted, the HDMI cable popped out. So I had to grovel under my table here, under my desk and you know, grab it and just, I don't know what I did, but I was fine when I woke up. You know, I was just getting ready, and then I just sort of, I don't know, just the way I bent my back or twisted or something to get underneath. I just went, and I went, oh my God. And then, like, a minute later, I had to start the show, and I started the show, like, I was just like, hello, you can see, like, my eyes, if you could zoom in, you can see my eyes were, like, watering. I was like, hello and welcome to Morning Brew. But I'm better now. Tree spooting. Graham, try oxycodone. Lol, my doc's got me on it. You won't even remember you have a pack. I don't want to go that far. I've got to drive later. I was just thinking about how much worse it would be if the Tories were still in power. Yeah, Daylight Dave, yeah. And look, Labour aren't perfect. I'm not going to defend some of the mad shit they've been doing over the last 11 months. But they are better than the Tories. I know that's not enough for a lot of people. They're like, but, and this is something that I think is very important. Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Greens get held to account. The Tories and Refuck never get held to account. They just do what the fuck they like and get away with it, don't they? So, all in all, I'm going to say, all in all, there's a lot in here. So let's go through quickly. So Rachel Reeves has put up the department budgets overall 2.3% for all of them. They're putting an extra 190 billion into public services, which is desperately needed. She talked about energy renewal and talking about investments going into both, just economic renewal, I should say. Investments going into public services, and also the defence budget going up to 2.6%. They're going to spend 180 million a year on border force, which I think is, I want to give like a little tick and a little cross to each of these things. But they are going to end the hotels, which I always felt was ridiculous that we're putting asylum seekers in hotels. Hotels owned by Tory donors. It's very convenient, that, isn't it? So they're going to end that in this parliament. So that might not be for a couple of years. They're going to be in power till 2028, 2029. But she reckons it's not having people go to hotels, asylum seekers, and speeding up the process. Because what was happening was asylum seekers were taking 2 years to process their claim. And in all that time, they were staying in hotels that were owned by Tory donors. It was a big stitch up. Anyway, she reckons that would be £1 billion of savings. We've already talked about Sizewell C, nuclear power station. 30 billion on nuclear in general, 14 billion going to Sizewell. And then there's this SMR program, not the 16 million rising or the single-minded rejoiners program, but this is actually small modular reactors, which are small nuclear reactors. Unfortunately, I heard there was going to be a £2.5 billion investment in fusion. Do you know what you could do, right? So I was trying to recreate the environment of the middle of the sun, right? How about we get like 2 billion in used fibers and we just shovel it into a well that's on fire? Hey, look, the French seem to be doing quite well at the R&D on this. Let's just leave them to it, okay? Let's just leave them to it. I think fusion, magical thinking. I do. The fact that they've had one experiment so far that I know of that's managed to get more energy out than they put in, but it was like 0.0000001% more energy, doesn't bode well. Carbon capture, also they're putting money into that up in Scotland. Not happy about that. I'm happy about the Great British Energy Limited being made, the HQ being up in Scotland. I don't know if it's limited, just Great British Energy. This should protect us, hopefully, from price shocks, give us, energy security and economic security. British Steel, supporting workers in, supporting the plants and the workers in Port Talbot and in Scunthorpe, and also the Heathrow third runway are going to be using British Steel, which is a good idea. There's going to be an AI action plan. It's like Action Man, but it's called an action plan. 2 billion is going on that. And then there's going to be money spent in learning money, learning. But also the making, helping people to train and to learn new skills, which is really, really important for a dynamic, socially mobile workforce that we need. So that's good. Trans-Pennine route, oh my God, please, yes. It takes me longer to get to Liverpool than it does to get to London on the train from Durham. It's a mess. It's painful. Like, I could tell you some horror stories about traveling on the Trans-Pennine Express. Like, I've got the train back from Liverpool once to Durham and there were no toilets on the train. Could you imagine being on a train with a couple hundred people on the train and there is no toilet on the freaking train? Yeah. So that needs to be sorted. She said that a quarter of the route has already been electrified by this summer. So obviously that needs more doing to it, but that's on the right tracks. Hey, it blows my mind that you get the train to London, right? The LNER train to London. It's a diesel freaking train. It's electrified all the way along the East Coast Main Line, as far as I know. But it's a diesel train. Why are we using this technology from like 100 years ago to power our freaking trains? It's maddening. I suppose electric trains are that old as well, but never mind. So this is a £3.5 billion investment in the Trans-Pennine route and in Northern Powerhouse Rail. There's 445 million going to Wales, which I was like, yeah, that's really cool, but they're still not going to make a train line that goes from North Wales to South Wales. There isn't one. You've got to go via the UK, via England, which blows my mind. And then we've got the money going into Scotland, 52 billion, 25 billion into Wales, 20 billion into Northern Ireland. Of the money that's being put into Scotland, 118 million of it is that to make coal tips safe, which is a huge issue in some former coal mining communities where they've got these massive mountains of slurry. Not slurry. What's it called? The stuff, slag. Is it slag? It's a slag heap, isn't it? Of slag. So we've got to make those slags safe. And also there was talk of working with 350 communities, swimming pools, libraries, parks. Yes, please, more of that. Regeneration, growth mission funds. She singled out Southport, whose pier has been closed since 2022. If you go on the BBC website, they actually have a list of all the places that are going to get this funding. They include Speak in Liverpool and also Sefton. which is north of Liverpool, and which is good, brutal way. We've also got 1,400 new prison places, which is desperately needed. 7 billion more invested in prisons, and by the sounds of it, in getting down the number of people waiting to get a court date. Police pay is being increased, or police funding is being increased by 2.3% a year, and minimum wage is being boosted. Public sector works. They're banning 0-hour contracts. We know about all this, getting rid of fire and rehire. One of the interesting ones was that they're capping the cost of uniforms. This is to help with the cost of living. Fantastic. And also she mentioned the Warm Homes Pledge, which I hope means insulation for the nation, which we absolutely need. 7 million upgrading homes. I assume this is insulation. And then she went on to talk about the fact that this spending review has been line by line. So she called it a zero-based review. I think that's what she called it. In which, instead of just going, okay, we've got last year's and we'll just change a few things, they've actually gone through it line by line and sussed out what they can cut and what they can add. And she bragged about driving out waste and putting the waste money on consultants, which were made to the Tories. It was a whole scam that the Tories used to pull, and Labour probably pulled it in the past. I don't know, but it was the lads they went to school with would get a consultancy deal to go in and consult local government or whoever on behalf of the national government, and it was a big waste of fucking money. So cutting costs of, having a maximum cost, capping the cost of uniforms, that's good. Also, driving out waste. Going back to schools, she mentioned that, then she mentioned 93%, which I love that she mentioned this, the 93% of us who went to state schools. She talked about taxing the private schools in order to fund state schools, free school meals, breakfast clubs, which have lifted 100,000 kids out of poverty, no child going hungry. There's also 370 million put aside for school-based nurseries, social care, increased by 550 million. Money going into music, sport, drama, and then she talked about the NHS at the end, with bringing down the waiting lists. She mentioned 2.3 billion to fix schools that are all like in mobile classrooms. If someone's asking why they're called mobile classrooms when they're not on wheels, that it's because you can pick it up on a crane and put it on a truck and take it away. That's what makes it mobile. Not having lorry. Sorry, we're British here. We say lorry, but not necessarily having wheels. But I get when I was a kid, but it's like static caravans. How could it be a caravan? It's got no wheels, but yeah, it's because it can be picked up by a crane and put on the back of a truck, which my house cannot. So NHS funding up 3% a year, which is £29 billion a year. And they're bringing down the waiting lists. And the tech budget has been increased by 50% to try and get away from analog and more digital. Now, I like the NHS app. I use it. It's not quite there yet, where you can book appointments at our local GPs. You still have the phone roulette where you got to call up. Luckily, my many years of calling up to buy gig tickets comes in really handy for getting in touch with the quack when necessary to get an appointment. And our quack's pretty good. You can usually get the same day. If you get in early enough, and they do have a way of booking online as well. So, those they're both covered. But there was a time when you had to call up to book an appointment. And if you were deaf, you didn't have a choice. You couldn't send, there was no app. There was no website you could go on and get the appointment. You had to call up. And if you're deaf, you have the thing, a text phone or whatever it was called. Text phone. Do you know how these things work? Like you would literally call someone and the call would go via another person whose job it was to basically, when the person responded to you, they would type out what they said. Like they would type it out, what they said, and then it would come out the other end come up on like a sort of like a Casio keyboard display thing. You know, like it was 80s tech. Text phone, I think it was called. But yeah, that was particularly painful and expensive. You had to pay for that service. It wasn't provided free for people who were profoundly deaf. You had to pay for it. Bit of disability tax there. I do. One of the things I do with Catherine is if she needs to make a phone call, I'll be on the call. She put it on speakerphone, and I'll repeat what's said down the phone. She can read my lips, right? And it's so funny sometimes because some people, myself included, are rather garrulous, and they'll go blah 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 blah. Cat looks at me, and I go, "They said yes." And you can hear them on the other end of the phone just laughing at the fact that I've just distilled all of what they've just told me to like, yeah, no. How about tomorrow? Anyway, so yeah, ways around these things. Modem auto dialers for first online the phone. Grim Fang, while a lot of spending was announced, most of it was investment under Reeves's fiscal rules. Borrowing to invest is encountered as projects bring return, which is are accounted for now. Yeah, and it's good. Like I always talk about public transport is investment. You put any money into private transport anywhere in the world, in any time, in any part of our history, of any era, of any empire, of any democracy, of any autocracy. If you put money into public transport, you get money out. You get more than you put, even if you make it free. If you make it absolutely free for everyone to use, you get more money out of that than you put in. Every time, 100%. Never failed. Except when it's been a mad project that hasn't really been a public transport thing, where it's been like a monorail, or Elon Musk's fucking pod cars, because he doesn't like trains, he likes pods. He does it with the bloody tech bros and liking pods. It's a pod. It's an iPod. It's a podcast. Okay, Cluepid. Until I feel safe in the country to live in and not worry about my future, I'm not hearing any of it. I can't lie. I'm literally moving to Canada because of this stupid government. You didn't say stupid. I put that in there. The way that this government's behaved over trans rights has been a fucking disgrace from top to bottom, left to right, middle out. It's been fucking shite. And there is a lot of audible protestation going on as a result of what Labour have done, going along with this bullshit Supreme Court ruling and going along with this bullshit, turfism. The backlash is growing. It really is. It is absolutely growing. Very much looking forward to going to see Kate Nash at Glastonbury, where she will be performing Germ live, which is, for me, it's the anthem of the summer. A song about trans rights, sexual assaults, men's mental health, with sources quoted in the lyrics of the song. Wow. There you go. But absolutely necessary. So, okay. So that about wraps it up. All in all, that was better than I thought it would be. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But hopefully these investments, and finally we'll be seeing some investments. And I was thinking about this, like growing up, first 18 years of my life, Tory government, no investment, hardly anything. It was just like one-off little projects here and there, the Albert Dock or something, the Festival Gardens. But there was nothing sustainable. There was nothing, growing over time. It was just all kind of make do and mend mentality. It was like we just lost the fucking war. And then we had these 13 years of the Labour government when things did get demonstrably better for everyone. Even the millionaires did better under Labour. But then, the Tories got back in and they went, we're going to keep the millionaires doing even better than ever before, but we're going to screw everybody else. And they absolutely did. And we went back to this sort of thing. We haven't got the money for that. Oh, we'd love to fix up your town centre, love, but we haven't got the money for that. Ooh. Endlessly frustrating. But, step in the right direction, although on social policy, especially about trans rights, I'm very clubid bloverscope at the moment. I need to see some fucking definite change in that direction soon. Otherwise, even my half-hearted support for Labour is going out the window. Okay, so I'm going to head off now. Donkey, PIP is an automotive industry benefit. What? And PIP says L votes if they can't sort out the trains trans issues. That's very good. Yes, trains and trans. They're quite... It's two subjects particularly close to my heart. Some of my best friends are trains. Trans. Read my lips, no nude taxes. Ooh, no nude taxes? No taxes on being nude. Okay, so I'll head off now. I'll be back at 6 o'clock tonight for the rabbit hole, I hope, with Rachel. I can't wait. It should be a lot of fun. Last week we were talking about remakes that were better or worse than in the original. This time we're going to be talking about sequels and or prequels that were better or worse. I've got a few things to say about that because some of the sequels that completely negate the original piss me off so much. So let's really get into it tonight, 6 o'clock. Please join us for that. And until then, I'll just say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And until next time, give us a like on the way out. And hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.